All right, we had a little bit of a false start there. Welcome to Enter the Zeitgeist, episode 11. For those who have only seen me in podcast audio form, I'm John Hardy. Below me is my beautiful co-host, Pablo. He's really got an anime protagonist-antagonist vibe right now. And then our very handsome guest over here is Chris Giese. We've known Chris since high school, and hopefully he can be an interesting episode guest. I think his
Probably not. I mean, don't get your expectations.
I think his
high.
topics are good. I'm also not streaming my thing because Discord came up in the wrong window. I am trash at this. Okay, we're not redoing it. I'm John. Pablo's below me. Chris is on my side. You saw my.
I mean, you can always edit it in post.
We're not editing it in post. It's live on YouTube now.
Oh no, I'm hearing a double beep. I don't know what's double beeping.
Oh no. Bear with us. This is our first time going live. We got very tired of editing our episodes. We would just not. I would rather release them now, anyways. That way we can talk about more current event stuff. I think I might rip the audio and put it on Spotify, but I'm not sure yet.
This is probably the best method of doing it. Just jump into it.
Yeah, I mean, we weren't really editing it that well, anyways. And then it's all
we
like,
live in a Zoom world now. You know?
And it's like, can you send me your audio files? Like, no, we're just gonna stream it.
Here you go. Hold on. This might solve the problem.
Oh gosh, this man has two plugs.
It's that these headphones, they rely on the battery even if they're plugged in like completely. They're still doing that weird beeping sound, so I have no idea what's happening right now. So
you can't get that on audio.
Okay, well, if you guys aren't hearing
you
it,
look
then,
like Nebula.
We can't hear it for sure.
Up to a bunch of machines.
All right.
Or like
Pablo looks like Gideon from Scott Pilgrim. We've established this.
You do look like Gideon from Scott Pilgrim.
He's the main bad guy.
Yeah.
He looks both like the real actor and the cartoon.
What's the actor's name?
I
don't want to say Dimitri Martin. It's just Dimitri Martin knockoff or whatever. But
shit. Who played Gideon?
But yeah, I think you guys were talking about some stuff while I was on the way here. If that's worth bringing up.
Yeah, we're talking about amendments.
Amendments to the Constitution, or
yeah. And I typically just group all like the last ones where it's like the Fifth Amendment, where you're like you don't have to incriminate yourself, like your right to a trial by jury, unreasonable searches and seizures, and everything, like all that. I just think of it as the one thing. It's just like, oh yeah, that's how the courts work. There's a courts thing, there's the gun thing, there's the freedom of speech and religion thing, and the quartering soldiers thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I asked if a militarized police force breaking into your house is
quartering
a violation of the Third Amendment. But I mean, I do think Pablo said earlier, like, oh yeah, well, quartering has to do with sleeping there or being there for a long period of time.
Basically like occupying your house to live there.
Yeah, that's how I think of it. Or like I don't know how different people would argue it, though, when it comes to like the actual courts when they're deciding if something is actually like a Third Amendment violation.
Well,
because
I don't think it's a violation at all, because I think police officers have to get a warrant, and if they get a warrant, they can come to your house.
Yeah, well, I mean, then he brought up the Fourth Amendment, which is probably just as vague as the Third Amendment, and it covers like what is probable cause. You know what constitutes
the big
well, actually, it says that you need probable cause. So it's like,
but it doesn't tell you what.
Yeah,
there were a lot of like issues with that.
On that.
Like certain like FISA courts were just giving out free warrants for a while.
Yeah,
I don't remember exactly what this was for, but they've just been abusing the powers. But if you have a warrant, technically that's legal, even if it's an illegally obtained warrant.
Yeah, and they have all sorts of exceptions like consent searches, motor vehicle searches, evidence in plain view, exigent circumstances, whatever exigent means, border searches, and other situations. And I'm like, what are and other situations? I don't know that. Um, but yeah, that's a lot of exceptions.
Exactly. They don't want you to know what other situations are. You're
Yeah,
under
like
control.
motor vehicle searches. First of all, like it's impossible to participate in American society without a motor vehicle now. So that's like pretty much all of your transit, unless you're like
So
in a city.
yeah, pretty much.
Yeah,
I would
pretty
say
much.
most places you live, other than like that very like middle of downtown areas of very large cities. Because
Yeah,
even if you live in like Atlanta or in Denver, you still can't do that unless you literally live downtown, work downtown, and don't really have to go anywhere else.
yeah.
And even in that situation, not having a car just sucks.
Yeah, but then like economics wise, personally, like you live in the middle of like a downtown area, you're probably paying the equivalent of a car payment in your extra rent price. So
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, it's assuming that you're renting, but a lot of people don't have like the wealth to like buy a place, and so all the money that goes to like renting the place just gives the landlord more money to buy up more properties.
yeah,
Uh,
that's why I want to become a bad person and become a landlord, Pablo. I
uh,
can just
uh,
I can just
I don't think you're gonna like what
well, Pablo, I know
what
that
that
you don't
might
like
get you.
landlords. I also don't like landlords. But if I have been fucked by them, I want to. If you can't beat
You
them, join
want
them.
you want to be the fucker
If you
and
can't beat
not.
them, join them. So,
Yeah,
I would
fuck
rather
that.
just be independent from that mess.
well, the thing is, I would prefer. It would make more sense if the real estate was less made into like a commodity that you can like extract value out of, and instead just a place to live. But the problem with that is people love houses. There's not enough houses to go around, and
Oh, there's so many houses.
part of that is artificially driven by the fact that people will buy houses they're not intending to live in, and then will rent them out and won't sell them.
Yeah, a lot of houses just sit empty too.
Yeah.
But
I don't think it's a problem of not having enough houses.
yeah, and mostly this problem really exists in like big cities. I don't really think that this problem happens in like rural America or smaller city. Like even Knoxville, I don't really think it's that big of a deal. Maybe I'm wrong since I haven't been in Knoxville in a while. Um, but I don't feel like
I
it's
think it-
that difficult to find housing.
What does homelessness look like in like a major metropolitan area compared to
There's a lot of
a
homeless
very
people.
rural area, you know?
There's a lot of homeless people in Denver.
There's a lot of homeless people like in Knoxville.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's tons of homeless people in Knoxville.
Yeah,
There's a whole bridge full of a bunch of people
There's-
under it that live
Yeah.
home.
I haven't been there.
We got a homeless camp here in Madison.
I haven't been there in a while, but near the Capitol building, there were a very large amount. Like the entire plaza was just like full of camping people. It's pretty sad to see, honestly, because
yeah,
yeah,
and like a lot of the stuff that people pay for is mostly just to like move homeless people around. Like so much money to like make the environment hostile, like through making the benches uncomfortable, like for pregnant people and old people, and like as just so people don't sleep on the benches and things like that. And you get money going to the police and things like that. And I wonder, like, is it just less expensive just to give people homes? Just that would just solve it. It's just that a bunch of people don't want that like in their backyard. They're like, oh no, where are you gonna put it? Are you gonna put it here? I don't like that. That's gonna lower my property values.
Yeah, that's
'Cause
a
they
huge
cheat.
problem here in Madison. Because, like, everybody here is the kind of, like, upper crust, like, liberal white person who's like, oh yeah, I love black people. I just don't want them to live in my neighborhood with me. Like,
Yeah,
that is like the whole of this city and like a major problem here. So instead we have like a tent camp full of homeless people on like the west side, and it gets really fucking cold here in the winter, so it's pretty sad to see like people living outside in those conditions. Like
Yeah, like I think the liberal, like when it comes to like the upper like middle class type liberal people, they're like, I'm not racist, but if something is systemically supporting me doing something that ends up having systemic racist effects, then I'm just gonna be like, oh, it's just economics, it's nothing personal. But they're not looking beyond their immediate material interests. And like, don't you think that shaped history back then too? Like, people were not looking past their immediate material gains, and so they committed terrible crimes, you know? Like,
Or the same people who weren't looking past their immediate material gains were also the people who were like the forefathers of our Constitution and
Yeah.
wrote amendments and laws. Just to circle back.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if it was as bad when the Constitution was written, because a lot of like the financial incentives that people have today were not around back. Like, I don't believe the stock exchange existed. I don't believe people were like trying to manage giant, like multi-unit estates.
Sure.
Because they couldn't, because it's just not possible for you to manage that back in the days of like horses and carriages. You might have owned a lot of things, but
Well, I mean, back then they owned people.
yeah, that is true.
So, like,
They
it's
weren't
kind of a
allowed
big
to own
deal.
those people anymore, and
Yeah, you just
years later, they're all homeless now.
and it's like a very unique form of when it came to like ancient Greece and like slavery, then like you were not, it wasn't that like your children were also enslaved, and it's like you had like a way out, you could work your way out. There's several different ways that it was qualitatively different to be like a Greek slave versus the American system of being a slave, which is like you're literally treated like cattle. Like the same laws would apply.
yeah.
Like
Uh,
are you saying like in Egypt?
Wait,
Are you saying that slavery was better in Egypt?
Wait, how did Greece and
I
Egypt
feel that if I had to pick, if I was going to be enslaved, I would not want to be a fucking American slave at all, because like they would fucking no.
Because they were more brutal.
Disturbed.
Okay, sure.
Like you
Yeah.
didn't have as
But-
much of an opportunity to work your way out of slavery.
I'm not gonna diminish the fact that being an American slave was bad, but is it worse than building pyramids in the hot desert?
Yeah.
Also being
Yeah.
whipped by people?
No, I mean,
feel
I
like
don't
it's
think
pretty
that
good.
the slaves were really building the pyramids. Like, I think that was kind of like a religious exercise, and they were paid. Like, but when it came to
Obviously, it was aliens that built the pyramids.
Yeah,
I
let's
don't
be
even know why
honest.
we're discussing that.
yeah,
How else are we
it's
gonna
a
get Joe Rogan
conspiracy.
on our podcast?
How could there be an advanced civilization near a fertile river? That's
Doesn't even
unthinkable.
make sense, you know? It's laughable.
Yeah. But no, definitely not. You'd fucking just have Thomas Jefferson rape you, and then he'd like own your child like as a piece of property. No, thank you. That's crazy.
Did either of you guys ever have Mr. Center in high school?
No.
I love Mr. Center.
And he loved Thomas Jefferson.
Well,
Yeah. I gotta let him know that Thomas Jefferson is a goddamn rapist. He's a piece of shit. He owns human beings.
Mr. Center knew, but he was like unapologetically conservative, but not like MAGA conservative, just like old hat conservative.
Oh no, that makes me angrier. I mean,
No, maybe not McConnell.
I will not
conservative.
stand for Mr. Center being badmouthed on this. We're moving on to the
I'm
next
not
topic.
bad mouthing.
I would not.
No. We're not doing this.
I got into a tussle with him on Facebook. I subtweeted him on there, and he was like, "Oh, you're gonna like." He started DMing me, and he was like,
Here's the question,
he was
Pablo.
getting
Were you in his class?
upset.
Were you in his class because he was one of like the greatest? He was so fun.
I think he was a great teacher.
Yeah.
I was the kind of person that got into really big arguments with my AP economics teacher.
But the cool thing about Mr. Center is that he would welcome that argument.
Yeah, he
And
would be
if
fine
you
with
wanted
arguing
to
with you.
state your cases
Because he's
and
arguing with high
disagree
schoolers.
with you, he would literally,
No,
let
he
you
would just
state
discuss
your
it. With,
case.
like he wouldn't be like,
Yeah,
"I'm
he
right,
wouldn't,
you're
like-
wrong."
I would say like his way of teaching history was like implicitly biased towards conservatism, and like you could tell that when you were learning it. Like
Yeah.
he wrote like a 1-page write-up on Bill Clinton's presidency, but like a 6-page write-up on Reagan's presidency. Like, you know what I mean?
I could write a lot about Reagan's presidency. If he wants a 6-page
Yeah.
write-up on Reagan, I can tell him.
About NAFTA too, you know what I mean? Like, or the crime bill that got passed. If you want to like criticize, like it wasn't like as critical as it could have been. It was mostly like hyping up the Reagan train, which
Yeah.
was a precursor to the last 4 fucking nightmare years that we
I
just
don't really remember
experienced.
any. I don't remember any of like modern history, honestly, that he
I
taught.
we had
I
I
think.
had AP US
Oh,
history with.
yeah, I had AP US history, and I feel like most of the time he was just. I feel like the majority of that class was just like Civil War. And
Or the
Yeah.
Gilded Age, like that was the majority of it, and then he
Yeah.
briefly covered modern history at the end. And I noticed that like some of his stuff was heavily biased towards like conservative history. But I also think like he was a good teacher, a really great teacher, and he made me think about a lot of things in ways that I hadn't thought about things before.
Yeah.
So like, I don't mean to diminish him in any way, honestly.
Yeah, I
But
would say.
definitely, I have my bone to pick with Mr. Moreno. He started making climate change a debate in a chemistry class. Like, my own dad said that he was a fraud because like he has like a PhD in theoretical physics and it's just like, yeah, this guy like there's nothing to trust about him when it comes to his philosophy, I guess, of how science works. And the whole time he would just like be like he would pick on me because I'm Argentine, and he would be like, and he's like Cuban, so like the whole thing is that Che Guevara, like it was a guy who fought with Fidel Castro against the Batista's dictatorship there, and overthrew it, and then Fidel Castro was now the new dictator guy, and he didn't like it because Batista was his favorite dictator, because he was supported by the U.S. like a or backed by
Having a
United
favorite
States.
dictator. What the heck?
Yeah, and so he would pick on me. He'd be like, "God, like you gotta explain this." And I was like, "This is a fucking chemistry class, man." Like,
I'd be like, what does this have to do with
Yeah.
stoichiometry and the fucking Cuban Revolution are not like
yeah,
related?
I'd be like, "I'm sorry, Fidel Castro stole your family's slaves. Like, what do you want me to do, Gusano? Get out of my fucking face."
And I'm gonna take this opportunity to ride the roller coaster over to our next topic.
Oh hell yeah!
So, Chris, you do like
Yeah.
woodworking contracting.
Yeah.
So, first of all, what's some cool things you've made recently?
I'm building a guitar like right now.
I've seen some of these pictures.
Yeah, I sent a couple pictures, but
Let me see if I can.
just
pull
because
some
I'm
of those
proud
up.
of how the body came out. But
And I wish we had a way to like post a picture, like
Oh,
be like,
we do.
"Oh no,
we're live, baby.
pull up the clip."
Ah! I don't want to display these things.
Oh shit, me and John are both.
Oh, we're both. Well, I'm wearing. This is like a salmon color, but it's very dark. So
Well, this
I'm
is a
wearing
salmon color and it's very dark.
prototypical
And
gray
just in
and
different
black.
lighting.
Some cool stuff I've built. I've built a lot of like coffee tables and stuff that I think are kind of interesting, and like messing with like geometric shapes is fun. What we're like talking, we're negotiating a project right now with one of our clients who wants like a custom built-in like closet with like a big radius arc on it to like go up against their wall, and like just like a sit down bench attachment to it. I don't know. So that's gonna be cool when it's done. I don't really have any pictures of that. But yeah. I got into woodworking a couple years ago and I just like never turned back, honestly, just because I always felt like I was like supposed to be more of like a trade person, I guess, and less of, I don't know. I did fine in high school and stuff, but it just like academics never really like captured my interest as much as like building things and just messing around with just like any sort of material and engineering things and drawing things, I guess. I don't know. We do a lot of drafting as well. Like
Yeah.
a lot of our business comes from like architectural woodworking drawings. So I have like a lot of experience in drafting, and I just use that to build stuff normally for people. So that's like
Well,
the guitar I was making. I pretty much like uh drew one of my own guitars that I already had
Yep.
in AutoCAD and then translated it onto
And for
wood.
anyone who's watching the YouTube stream, I've just pulled up a work in progress picture of the guitar.
I should
I'll
send
be right
some.
back. I have to show a tool.
All right, we'll put it on top of Pablo while he's gone. But yeah, that's cool. I saw like both you and Adam have you made a guitar before, Chris, or was that Adam only?
Adam, I don't know if he's like made a guitar before. I know he's like put different projects together and stuff.
Yeah.
I've done that. We both have done that a lot. Adam's like getting more and more into that stuff. I know he was like thinking about building a body at some point. But yeah, I mean like I originally like thought about going to woodworking school so I could build instruments, but then I ended up being able to make money a lot easier on other stuff and
Yeah.
like support my own
Because you can
business
just
through
like
that.
make tables and cabinets and stuff.
Yeah, and that's like what people want, and they like want their kitchens remodeled and their bathrooms remodeled and stuff. So
Yeah.
like that's kind of like what my business makes money on, that and drafting. And we do like drafting for commercial cabinet places as well, like industrial shops, because we have experience with that.
So Chris, I was asking you one time about like a cutting board or like a kind of board that I was like making like with poplar, and you recommended this like Japanese like
Yeah.
planer.
Yeah, I have one. I carry it in my tool bag like with me everywhere I go. Do you love it?
Yeah, these things are cool. Like,
Yeah.
it took me a while to figure out how to like adjust it because you have to like kind of like rock it a little bit. Or that's this
I'll
is a hack I figured
Put
out.
it in a clamp, and then I'll use a ball peen hammer and kind of just tap it lightly, and like you can kind of like tap it and then use a caliper to see how much wood you're taking off on each pass. But I
Yeah.
really like that one because it's really simple. It's Japanese, so like know how to make a tool, and they made it like very very sharp out of the factory, so it's very good for plating stuff. And if like the wood ever gets messed up, you can just make another block and stick it in there. And then
Wait,
Yeah,
so-
I actually
so you-
checked it out under the microscope,
So
and
you-
it's like it is damn sharp. Like I have like a 1,000 grit stone, and I couldn't get it looking that clean.
yeah,
You hammer it. You hammer like what part of it do you hammer? Can you show me again, Pablo?
like right there on
The metal
kind of the
part?
back curved part, you can just like I'll clamp it and lightly tap it, and then if you flip it over, Pablo, shows like where the blade sticks out, right? So like you can measure the distance from the blade to the edge of where that board is, like where the hole is, and you can determine how much you're taking off with each pass. So usually take like a millimeter. A millimeter would be a lot. You want to take like half a mil.
My problem is like whenever I adjust it, it's sometimes like it's like at an angle, and so it's
Yeah.
like cutting on
That's
one side
actually
and not
not
the
a
other.
bad thing with the plane because you should hold it at an angle. Don't hold it straight on the board.
I want to get those ribbons. They're so good, especially with poplar. With pine, it's not as good. But pine is so cheap that you think it's like a beginner wood, but it's not.
No, that walnut I'm working with and building that guitar out of is a pain to work
Is,
with.
is pine not a beginner wood because it's so soft and can just like splinter?
It's got a lot of sap in it, so
Mm.
it kind of is like binding up when you're trying to work on it. It's like
Look at this shit.
like a dried out carrot versus a wet carrot, and like the dried out carrot is poplar and the wet carrot is pine. I
Oh,
don't know
okay,
if that
so
makes
this
sense.
actually, I'm really liking the visuals of this video podcast already. So
Shit.
if we eventually put this on Spotify, just know that you might be missing slightly out on the video version.
I can focus in on it. Hold
I'm
on.
glad that the tool is working out for you.
Oh,
That's what I tell everybody who wants to like get into stuff. Like buy some really good hand tools, and if you can, buy them from Japan because you will get high quality stuff.
It's like paper, and but it's wood though. It's like a little ribbon. This would make like great packaging for like a gift.
I have a big power planer in my shop, so I don't like. I use the hand planer for like, um, oftentimes for like fitting things tightly into a space if I'm like installing a custom cabinet or something for somebody, or like putting a door, hanging a door, like the door will hit the edge of the jamb at the top or something, so you need to like just ever so slightly shave off some off the top. That's like a super good tool for that. Just like getting things smooth and clearing it so that things fit correctly, because like carpentry is basically just a game of like how to play with a geometric area that's totally out of square, because like nothing is square, like walls aren't square, nothing is 90.
They're
even
just
though
close to
everybody
90.
wants yeah
Everything's crooked.
yeah, everything's always crooked basically. So it's just how do I figure out how to fit this into this space so that it doesn't look so not crooked.
Yeah, so it doesn't.
My favorite thing is doing bevels with this thing. You have like a corner.
It's called a
And you
chamfer.
just like
Yeah, get it
chamfer.
right, Pablo.
I call it a bevel because I made things in Blender, not in
No, I
AutoCAD.
know that from
Actually, a chamfer is face to edge, and a bevel is face to face. That's how you differentiate the two.
Wait, face to edge versus face to face. But
Yeah.
isn't two faces meeting an edge?
No, like so, like a board. When you think about it, as far as like a lumber, dimensional lumber, you call the edge of the board like the board you have, right? The edge would be the thick side or the depth side. So like that's probably 3/4. It looks like so. Like there's your edge, and then when you flip it towards me, you have the
It is
face.
exactly 3/4.
Yeah.
Just open the fucking video. Fuck,
like-
I can't point it.
So if you just like shaved off a corner and you had the face to the edge side of the board, that'd be a chamfer, and if the angle went all the way to the other face, you'd have a bevel.
Okay, I gotta let the Blender Foundation know that
Yeah.
they're wrong.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know if you ever used anything like Inventor or
Yeah,
like
I used
AutoCAD.
Inventor, and that's where I was.
Yeah.
Like, chamfer versus
Inventor
bevel.
has chamfer and stuff, or fillet or stuff like that, you know,
Yeah.
or
All
cove.
those-
There's tons of different words.
All those 3D modeling programs. I'm glad
I do a lot of 3D models.
I'm glad I enjoyed 3D modeling, but I'm glad I'm not doing that for my career anymore. I feel like I would not like it these days. Well, I was doing it for like art. I feel like it might be a little different if I was doing engineering designs, but
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like a lot of what I use drawing software nowadays is like submitting plans. Like I just submitted plans to the city of Madison so that I could get a permit pulled. So I did like an architectural drawing of a room layout because we're building like some walls and finishing a basement for our next client. So like that's the next big job we have, and I needed to like submit a floor plan to the city so that they knew what was being built. We could get the permit pulled. So
yeah.
super fun, exciting stuff in in the land of project management.
So
You'd be surprised at the things that hide in like the like little rules and procedures to getting things done. Like you have to go through so much like city council thing just to like clear out a piece of land that has like a trailer full of diphtheria in it from like the 70s.
I had
like,
to take a 12-hour course to become a licensed contractor in Wisconsin, like, and read like Wisconsin statutes for building codes for like 1 to 2 family dwellings, like, and you would
Yeah, like-
not believe how boring that kind of like slog is, but then it's very helpful for like when you actually have clients and they're like, oh, like, am I gonna be able to like put a bed in the basement when it's finished? Can we sleep down there? And you're like, no, because it doesn't have 2 egress points. But I only know that from taking my stupid 12-hour course on, Wisconsin building code.
I mean, you get kind of funny structures from it though. Like I remember one time here, I went to a kind of like cabin that some friends had, and so they had like this wall that was built to like certain dimensions, just tall enough that you could lean a tool on it.
Yeah.
And I was like, why is that wall there? It's just because they needed a place to lean their tools. And they were like, no, actually, you need to have this certain like amount of wall to have electricity, like to have like an outlet coming out of there. and so it's just like basically there's just like an awning.
Just for electricity.
Yeah, and it's just like this wall underneath the awning so that you can have a power outlet. So like if you want the bare minimum, the bare minimum is always like this silly like legal structure.
You have to like meet this. Yeah, that's mostly due to OSHA. So OSHA is like the world's greatest government entity. They're so useless.
I mean,
It's
there's
great
a
if
lot of
someone's
violations
like,
daily,
"Hey,
so
crawl into that hole with no protection and fucking do something," and
Yeah.
you're like, "No, that sounds crazy because the fucking hole could collapse on me and I die." That
I
doesn't.
feel like I know the most boring shit about things like for OSHA standards because like I had to also take a course on OSHA to become a contractor, and it was like,
Yeah,
did you know that you can't have a 12-inch diameter hole, like larger than a 12-inch diameter hole, without covering it up because somebody could fall into it by accident? Like, why? Who cares that I know that? Like, if you're like competent
No.
enough to be working
feel
on a
like
job site, you're not gonna like fall into the
12-inch
13-inch
diameter hole is
diameter
already
hole.
pretty. Like your leg could fall in.
Pretty big. Yeah, you
Like,
could,
you
but
could-
like, but that doesn't have to be covered. But if it's 12.5 inches, now you gotta cover that bitch up because you're gonna be in.
but it's interesting though because like what are the limits? Like, could you have a floor that's just fucking Swiss cheese like that? Like any
Yeah,
step.
and it's like a bunch of 12-inch holes all over the place, and you have to step in between those
Yeah,
areas.
they're like perfectly packed in like a little hexagonal pattern too. It's like,
And honestly, all of this goes back to why the amendments are so poorly worded.
you just slightly approach like you can make the most dangerous legal structure ever. I mean, it's certain that if someone takes you to court because they injured yourself in your building, that they would have a case. But according to the rules, you would probably be allowed to build it.
Yeah, yeah. Although I gotta say, like most of the rules, like are not that vague. I guess like a lot of the shit for building dwellings in Wisconsin has to do with like fireproofing things or making sure you use the right like lumber that's treated for certain situations or
Uh,
I don't know. I feel like I memorized like a lot of the ones that don't even apply to what I do every day. Like I'm never gonna pour concrete for people because I like do bathroom remodels, but for some reason I know that like you have to have at least 4 inches of concrete for like a structure for like a garage structure if you want to like park your car or something. Like who cares about that?
I mean,
You
maybe
know, like
someone
why?
wants a concrete shower. You know,
I
Yeah,
know.
that's true. Yeah, I
It's
would
gonna be
hate
a lot
doing
cheaper
that.
to build a house than to buy one.
Yeah, I mean, being a mason person would be like my nightmare. I hate doing that. I hate when I just have to like tile people's houses and stuff. So like
But
that's
tile's literally the best kind of floor. It's better than vinyl.
Definitely, I like hardwood more. I feel like
hardwood's better.
wood is such a
But I would
Upkeep, man.
in a bathroom. Yes,
True.
I would prefer tile.
It gets scratched.
Everywhere else, I would rather have hardwood floors.
You wouldn't have tile in the kitchen.
No, I'd probably rather have hardwood in the kitchen.
What?
Like seamless hardwood throughout the whole
Yeah,
floor
just
and
the
then
whole
like a
floor,
tile
same
kitchen or
stuff.
bathroom. Yeah.
I'm a big fan of tile, and mostly because my grandfather would build houses and he would just have everything tile, and it's just great because it's easy to clean. You can't really scratch it unless you have something really hard dragging on it. So it's a very forgiving material. You don't have to wax it or do anything.
Well, yeah, and then I guess if you break a tile, you can just get one more tile and throw it in there, right?
Yeah,
But
it's durable.
fair.
And you can like use the materials to build a thing just like outside in the rain, and it still you come by and it's like good.
I guess
Yeah.
that's
You know?
true. I just like.
I think-
wood is just a very livable material. I feel. I like wood.
Yeah.
For
I'm
wooden
also,
furniture.
you could say I'm a wood guy. So, you know.
Yeah, I'm the only one who doesn't have building tools here, so
Yeah, my floor is
I
here.
have too many tools.
not
I
trying to
have way
sleep on
too many
tile though.
tools.
I
We're,
also
like,
like
make wood
concrete
floors.
flooring. Like I've been in places with concrete flooring. Like my office has concrete floors in like some of the areas, and then
Yeah.
I've been in Airbnbs with concrete floors. I actually really like concrete floors. Cause
Yeah, I feel like that's probably like the easiest floor to just like you can literally just paint it and
you don't even
What
have to
about
paint it.
rubber floors? Could you have a rubber floor?
I would hate this. I would never want to live there. The end.
what about couch cushion floor. It's all just couch cushions.
It's like that
Oh my
Seinfeld episode
God.
where Kramer's talking about levels.
Yeah, like the walls don't have any cushioning, just the flooring, but you're constantly stepping on cushions.
That'd be disgusting.
Nah, I'm not a
Spilling
fan.
drinks on
I would
cushions.
prefer the rubber
I
floors.
definitely think flooring. I don't want any kind of like fabric, because then if you spill something, you're doomed. You know.
Yeah.
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 You
Yeah, I
don't-
hate carpet because of that.
carpet-
Also because I have a dog.
Carpet is bad.
The only
And
the
I
only
just-
way I like carpet is like I have a rug. I like this rug, but I could theoretically just be like,
Yeah.
this rug is dead to me. I'm done. I have actual
Yeah.
floor. Believe
An
me.
area rug really pulls the room together.
Yeah.
But
Oh yeah. I got the reference.
I mostly just like hate installing tile, but like that's my life, so it doesn't really matter. I don't like not to like segue too much, but I don't like how the US government treats small business. That pisses me off.
Oh yeah, what
Let's
grinds your
elaborate on this.
gears as a working man, Chris? As a tradesman.
As a tradesman.
Yeah, you follow the.
More
Wait.
as a business owner and less
Pablo,
of a
can you,
tradesman.
can you
like-
back off on your mic like 1 inch? Can we?
Why?
How do you sound now?
I sound good. I
You
think.
sound
I
much
mean,
better at that distance.
That's
at this distance.
Yeah.
that's like mint right there.
All right, Chris. I'm sorry, I didn't want to segue out of your segue.
No, no, I think I'm like less mad as a tradesperson because actually I think being a tradesperson is like something that's going away in this country, and like that's unfortunate because there's like a huge need for trade work and
Why do you say it's going away?
like for example, my graduating class was like 12 people. You know, like 12 people went into the industry that I'm in when I graduated, and in 2018. But like, so like overall, there's been a decline in like trade work in this country, and I think it's tied more to like the decline of factory work. But trade work, you're not necessarily limited to like working in a factory setting all the time. Obviously, like me, I don't work in a factory, although I did work in a factory for a little while, but that's not the point.
What would you say replaces? So like, if less people are going in trades, but obviously people still want their tile floors installed.
Yeah.
Are you being replaced by like?
No, I mean that was like a fear, or that is like a fear, like that a lot of trade gigs will be like replaced by automation. But like
I was more
as
thinking
it
of,
stands,
like,
I think it's
larger
going to be quite a long
construction
time
companies.
before like a robot can accurately tile like a bathroom in a 100-year-old house. You know what I mean? Just
Yeah.
because of like all the variances and what's going on, and knowing how to deal with like situations. And I don't think it's like as a fear of automation as much as like for some reason trade work has been like stigmatized in the country to like show that like maybe less intelligent people are doing it, or like less I don't know what's
It's-
the word for it.
It's the same
Like-
concept as like waste management and like plumbers. Plumbers
Yeah.
get paid bank because they do a job that
Make like
most peop-
100,000 a year.
Yeah, because they
minimum.
do a job that most people don't think they want to do because they just go
Yeah.
like, oh, gross, poop. But
Yeah.
if you are,
But in reality, it's like a very technical job.
yeah,
right?
like, not everyone could be a plumber. I don't think. I don't think I would be a very good
Right.
plumber. You know.
Well, I mean, it's the same thing for welding or like cabinet making is kind of weird. I mean, that's technically what my degree is in, is cabinet making, but like I kind of like used it as a launching point for just like
Yeah.
architectural woodwork.
Well,
And
cabinet making is a lot more fine, right? Like, if you're making things like quickly for carpentry, you would use like a skill saw and just, cut things quickly, right? But
Like a
you would
rough
use-
frame wall, but like
Yeah.
finished carpentry is probably more akin to like what I do, like
Mhm.
because like like if you install some high-end cabinets that somebody paid $15,000 for, like you can't afford to make it look like crap and like
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
shit hanging off of it all the time. Like, so like I guess fine woodworking or finished carpentry is probably more akin to like what I do. Then there's rough carpentry, which is also what we do just because we're trying to make money wherever we can.
Mhm.
But like I think like trades overall have been like on the decline, and I wish there was more of like an emphasis on it because there's like a lot of good jobs that a lot of people out there can earn the technical skills to do it and get paid well and have a very good livable wage doing it. But like for some reason, like, and this was even a problem for me. Like I come from a family of very like highly academic. Like my mother has a
Yeah.
doctorate, my dad has a master's degree. Um, my brother is like on the, he's like on the board of directors for a massive solar panel or like solar lobbying institution for like the entire eastern seaboard of the United States. And like they were like, I know my parents like really tried to push me like into STEM to go into school for that, but it was like my own path personally. I never really like connected with being like high academia, and not that I have anything against that or getting it. I think it's great whoever wants to pursue whatever degree they want, but I also think, and I think it may be more of a problem for like the generation of
we
parents
lost
that
Pablo.
we
Keep
had,
going.
you know. Oh, we lost Pablo.
Keep going. We'll be fine.
Yeah, like our parents' generation, maybe in particular, maybe it's becoming less of an issue, but like certainly for my parents, they were trying to push me into something like that
I
instead of saying like go for trades and try that out. And then when I did try trades out, they were all behind it, not to like discredit them.
mhm.
And it worked out perfectly for me, and I think like there can be a lot of success there.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I feel like I was always kind of pushed towards like white collar jobs.
Yeah,
And
which
I was
is
also
again
probably more
not
interested
a
in
bad
those
thing.
kind of jobs.
Yeah,
But like I never really saw trade work as like an actual option. Also, definitely like a little bit before our generation, like not our generation, but like right before like we were in high school, they were like pushing STEM heavily, and then
super heavy. Yeah,
and then probably even heavier when we were like graduating. So I feel like
I our high school in particular was
it was
like
very pushing STEM. Yeah,
super bad
Yeah.
about trying to help people in the trades. They had like the welding program, and that was it. And I had heard from like past students that there was a lot more trade programs available in our school. But then when by the time we got into high school, it was like welding, which not like I don't want to be a welder. That's cool, no shame on welders, but like
yeah.
if there was a woodworking program in our high school, how would that have changed my trajectory even sooner? You know, I don't know.
Yeah, they had like art classes maybe, but we wouldn't make anything with wood. It was just clay.
Clay. Miss
And I feel
Schrock
like
let me blowtorch glass though. That was pretty
yeah,
cool.
The
It's awesome.
longer I've been living though, the more I realize that it really doesn't matter what your like degree or like job is as long as it suits your personal needs.
Yeah,
So like I don't really like I'd have like a
I would.
desk computer job, but I would be fine working something else if I was more interested
Yeah,
in doing that. Like
I would
well,
also say that like high school had literally no bearing on my life. And like if anything, the vocational program had a lot of bearing on my life just because it helped me make a lot of connections and stuff.
yeah,
Um, and then obviously I learned like a pretty highly like technical skill that, you know, but now I have like a very highly focused kind of path, I guess. So the other nice thing about college is like it kind of lets you explore multiple paths as well. So
for sure.
I feel like with my math degree, I never learned how to directly do things, but I learned how to learn. And I have like this tool that basically makes it so that whenever math pops up, it's not going to be a territory that is threatening to me.
yeah.
Like when you pull up the Wikipedia page and it starts like throwing all these symbols at you, like partial differentials, I'm just like, oh, I'm not going to click off, and this is where the journey ends.
And in a lot of ways, then like as far as like highly focused paths, your path and my path could be considered the same in that sense, and that they're both like highly focused on one thing. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
But there was a whole lot of like other stuff in school that really changed. Like I had to take like classes on urban geography, like what has affected how our cities were built, like race and ethnicity, like Latin American history, like other languages and things like that. And I think that those things kind of like they. I think that it's a political education. It's supposed to be like a kind of political education, and a lot of people that don't have like parents that are like involved in that kind of world might not get that kind of exposure. You get a lot of like small town people being like, "Oh, this guy went to college and he became a liberal." It's like, no, it's just
yeah. I luckily kind of feel like I came from both backgrounds, I guess, or I got a good mixture of like, you're not just gonna go work in the coal mining plant like your daddy, you know, like I didn't have that kind of background for like, so I in a sense got really lucky. I'm also like pretty lucky in the sense that I'm like a straight white male dude living in the US that's like given me a lot of opportunities, and that hasn't been lost on me like as somebody that started my own business. Not that it hasn't been challenging in its own right, but like I know that I probably get a lot more opportunities than the one black kid that I graduated with who also owns his own business. You know what I mean? Just because I'm a white kid. So and like I love that guy, Michael, and we've worked together on like different projects and shit, but like man, he's struggling to find work right now, and like I haven't been struggling to find work. And that's like a weird odd thing that, I mean, maybe not, it wasn't odd, it was just shocking that like I like actually had to come and face it as like we both graduated and moved out of school, and like we have very similar paths, yet like we're living in the same city doing the same exact thing, and like I'm more successful at it, and I think it's because of the color of my skin to an extent, and also I feel like I'm probably just a better woodworker than him, but that's just me throwing shade at Michael. If he ever listens to this, he's gonna like fucking come over to my house and smack me.
I mean, yeah, it's it's like the disparities and outcomes that occur. When it came to like my math education, I always felt like a bit like forced like into it, and I always felt like I liked doing things more like with my hands, or like making like video games. Like when you would like just program that, it's just a thing that you make, and someone else enjoys it or not, you know.
Yeah.
I'm surprised you didn't get a computer science degree, honestly, Pablo. I was expecting you, of all people, to get one.
Oh, well, look, the thing is,
you were gonna do that.
Is that my high school GPA wasn't high enough for me to get into the computer science program. And honestly would have been better had I gone into like some kind of trade or just like worked or something until I was like 20 something, right? And then they can no longer go off of your high school GPA, or like if I went to Mississippi or something like that. But I was just like, you know what, math, close enough. And you know what, actually, if you know how to do constructive proofs of certain kinds of like theorems regarding linear algebra or some other like stuff like that, then that's essentially a already written program. It's just in a much more compact format. Like if you're writing a summation notation like I equals 0 to this amount, like it's just a for loop where you're iterating over it. Like all the programming is a lot more verbose than the mathematical symbols.
Mm-hmm.
And with math, you can go beyond what computers can do, because computers usually like they work with floats, they work with integers that have a certain range, like a bit range, signed or unsigned integers.
They can only be so accurate, basically.
Yeah, with math, you're working with concepts like continuity, like differentiability, and then you can get up into like spheres, like topology, and what I love is proofs. I love just like the structure that you have, like when you start with assumptions and then just using reasoning, you arrive at like all these other conclusions. It's like a plant that's growing from a couple of seeds. And it can be so interesting. Like with non-Euclidean geometry, you don't assume the parallel postulate. I've turned into a math person. I don't even care if I can't get a job. I feel like it has fulfilled me.
Into a math person, you were like literally always a math person.
Yeah, you were always a math person, Pablo.
Like
it's fulfilled me in a spiritual sense, because I very much like the idea that there are these mental concepts that we can understand how they work. And if we find out that something in nature kind of behaves like it, suddenly we have kind of like rules to explain stuff. But it's like it's the best language to communicate physical ideas, measurable ideas through, because it just beams into the other person's mind, and they could be imagining it differently, but the substance of it is still the same. Like all other forms of communication, like you don't know how the person's arranging in their imagination the words that you're saying. You can't control that. But with math, you have the function down. It's so good.
Is that why you like getting into arguments with people on the internet all the time?
Yes, I love the structure of people's thinking. I get so annoyed when people's thinking is inconsistent. I get even more annoyed when they don't understand that their thinking is inconsistent when I point it out. But I have a lot of fun with street preachers. Like before COVID, I would get into like these debates with street preachers, and what I would do is that before I would get into a debate with them, I would read like a bunch of like Wikipedia articles or Stanford Dictionary of Philosophy or
Maybe he'll stand a little bit further back from his microphone on his way back.
or like the fucking Cambridge Dictionary of Philosophy. This bad boy,
clipping!
right?
You're
Definitely too close
I
to your
can't
mic.
hear myself thinking because you're talking so loudly into the microphone.
I'm so sorry.
No.
You're
Yeah,
getting too
the
close.
fucking thick boy.
Yeah.
This okay. I would look at this stuff, and I would like learn some obscure thing about like an obscure argument about whatchamacallit, interpreting text, right? Like how you would go about interpreting text and like forming images in your mind, like death of the author type things, like Wittgenstein. And I would go up to the street preacher and I would try to guide the Bible discussion towards that and just try to get him into this like weird abstract debate to try to like prove his point, because they all like really try to get you to like believe, because they think that they're like winning you over, or I don't know what their concept is. And so next thing you know, you're like debating like, well, how do you know that it's not the devil guiding your interpretation of the text of the Bible? Oh, because
I always had those weird thoughts. I'm like, oh yes. Back when I was like thinking more about like Bible things as a child, I would always like, what if the devil had swapped the names and we were all like, I don't know. It was like a
Yeah.
really weird shower thought one time. It's
just
like,
getting them into that
He
fucking
swapped his name with the Lord's name,
Yeah.
and like we were actually worshiping Satan, and everybody's worshiping Satan.
yeah, basically. And I was like,
I was just like-
the ultimate play.
like didn't like nothing like kind of concerned them when the Romans suddenly became Christian, right? Like, don't they think that something might have changed around there and how like the text was being applied as like a tool of war, imperialism, empire, or whatever, or just all the translations going down? And so they go like, you have to be like a textual literalist, because I was arguing with like people who said, well, the word it has no errors and you have to go by the letter of the Bible, the English King James edition or something like that. And so you can get them on the technicalities because they really care about them. And it's
They
just
care
funny
about-
to me.
They care about the Bible verses that they like to apply to their own lives, but then when you hit them with like you shouldn't eat shellfish, they're like, well, I like going to Red Lobster though, so like
Yeah, but you can always find a
jump
more
into Red
intense.
Lobster and I'll just eat more
Is
than
that a
biscuit.
real verse? Like,
Yeah,
don't eat
like you
shellfish?
literally are not allowed to eat shellfish.
Oh yeah, that was a whole other thing. It was like which rules from the Old Testament transferred over and which ones didn't.
Here's the whack
How they
thing.
went about deciding that kind of stuff.
Here's the textbook I went to school with.
Oh, modern
Ooh.
Catholic. Here's the whack thing about the Bible.
Shout out
There's
to Patrick Molzan.
there's all these verses in the Bible talking about like giants, and like the angels that they describe in the Bible are not like people with wings. They're like giant wheels covered with eyes, and they're like, ooh, it's an angel. He is here. And like they're basically freakish monsters. But we always just describe that, like, we always visualize them in media as just people with wings and a halo.
How much of like the telephone game effect has been applied to the Bible over the years? though?
Probably a lot. But I'm like, this is like looking at like the people's direct translations of like the Dead Sea Scrolls and stuff.
Yeah.
They're
Well, there would be like emerging documents. Sometimes like archaeologists would be like, hey, we discovered some things from that era. And because the Bible's a collection of various different kinds of books kind of together.
Yeah.
There could be more or there could be less. depending
Well,
on which denomination you're in.
Well, yeah, they've
True.
like cut out some books, like the Dead Sea Scroll book. I think it's called the Book of Enoch, and like no one recognizes that as like a real Bible book because it's it's too heretical, basically.
Yeah.
Because it's just like Nephilim, like basically there's like all these different like races of beings that are sort of like humans that like I don't know. It's very strange. I like did a deep dive and watched some guy's YouTube video on it one time, and it was like, what?
It's more like a Tolkien novel.
Yeah,
than
honestly,
Yeah.
yes. They're like giants that were like 400 feet tall and stuff, and like
Well, speaking of Tolkien, like he was highly inspired by Christian. I mean, I feel like his whole stories were just kind of like it was like the Narnia guy, you know?
yeah. Well, I feel like modern Christians hear about like Noah, Moses, like Samson, the Tower of Babel, maybe, and then like all of Jesus's stuff, and that's pretty much it. Okay, maybe like the book of like Job, so the guy who gets just like absolutely fucked in every
How
single
many-
way,
I feel like a lot of evangelical.
and like the whole rest of the Bible is ignored.
And people don't get my Samson reference, like with like if you cut my hair, all my strength goes away. Like, come on, like
A lot of evangelical people don't even read the Bible. They just use the megachurch that they go to as an excuse
Well,
to
yeah.
like wash
Well,
themselves of
no, I
their
don't
shitty
think-
lifestyles.
I don't think most people have ever read more than a few chapters of the Bible.
Right.
Honestly. But
I think it's like a trauma response. People really, really need to feel control and structure in their lives, and so they kind of like start like forming, like seeing these kinds of like patterns, and almost like it's kind of like magical thinking. It's kind of like a conspiratorial type thing, but you start seeing like messages in
Yeah,
things.
like we saw a lot of that in 2020, but like,
Yeah.
in a super highly concentrated scale with like the QAnon people that like basically blew up in 2020, right?
Yeah.
It's like these people, like a cataclysmic event happened that was so big that those people chose to believe in a conspiracy rather than facing reality because they crave structure, I guess. Like you're
QAnon's
saying.
just
Yeah, I mean, the ultimate fear, and this is even true with like people who believe that crystals are magic or zodiac signs or things
QAnon
like that.
is crystals for
Yeah.
conservatives.
Do you guys have any QAnon people in your families?
No,
No.
absolutely not.
My
I'm
dad
Latino.
told me
What the
the
fuck?
other day that one of my aunts, who like I haven't talked to in like since my grandma died, like 15 years ago, like that she's like a QAnon person who like lives in Oklahoma now, and I was just like, great.
Q
I
says.
Didn't
Like-
need to know that. I just wish I like hadn't even found out that information.
Man,
You know?
I'm like,
Because-
I miss my family in Argentina, but
Yeah.
sometimes I'm happy that they're all the way over there, you know, and they like, and people don't see any like posts. Because I mean, like it's like all they talk about is like Argentine politics, and no one really here cares about that, you know. Like one of my grandmas is like, I don't like Christina Kirchner, and I'm just like, okay, like
I don't even know who that is. Like-
exactly. It's like so obscure, and I'm just like, okay, yeah.
It's probably a good thing. My fiance's family all lives in Mexico, so
So Chris, I feel like we should
Yeah.
return because I feel like we never really fully explored this idea.
yeah.
You were saying that the U.S. And like corporate interests are just like bad for small business.
Oh, definitely.
Let's expand on
And I
this.
think like any small business person would probably like, well, unfortunately I feel like a lot of people are probably brainwashed, but there's like policies when it boils down to it, there's policies and precedents that are controlled by corporate interests pumping money into politicians basically, which we all know about, right? We all know politicians take a bunch of money from corporate interest. So
Lobbyists, yeah.
I when it boils down to it, what makes me mad is like, why do I, as somebody, like if my company doesn't make like over 250 or 300,000 or something a year,
Yeah.
then
And you're
I
paying
get
full
taxed.
taxes, yeah.
I get taxed at a way higher rate than somebody who's making like $50 million a year.
Well, Amazon pays no taxes because they have a shell corporation in the Cayman that technically Amazon is like paying them everything. So Amazon
Yeah.
makes zero in money, and the
Yeah.
Cayman shell corporation Amazon, that is the real Amazon, makes all the money, but they don't have to pay taxes because they're not a United States entity.
And like what makes me truly mad about it all is that like the whole idea that they're trying to sell capitalism on is that like everybody has an opportunity here to pull yourself up by your bootstraps and you can make it. But
Yeah.
they make the barrier of entry so high that it's like impossible for people to like pull themselves up by their bootstraps
Well,
or even enter that kind of situation.
well
You know what I
the
mean?
other problem is like Amazon is like one of the most valuable companies in America. However,
In
they pay
existence.
no in existence. However, they pay no taxes.
So they're valuable to who? Like they're valuable
So they're
to
valuable
investors.
to shareholders.
Their board of directors.
They're valuable to their board of directors. They are not valuable to the American government tax. Like if we taxed Amazon, we could have so
Or
much.
people who work
Just
for them.
if we exclusively taxed Amazon, breaking that loophole, that would be a lot of money that we would be able to spend. That we would, that you would not, because right now we're not equitably taxing people. Like
No.
so, like your company is being taxed at a very high rate. And
For
Amazon,
no good reason.
and Amazon is
If
making
anything,
trillions.
new companies should be taxed at like the lowest bracket or depending on how much money they make
Yeah,
so that it incentivizes more small business because
yeah.
Well,
like
what
that
thing
is the goal,
what
right?
happens is,
That
like,
like
Amazon-
everybody's supposed to be able to get a business, right?
Do corporate taxes have tiered tax rates, or is it just all a flat rate?
Well, how does it apply if they're
Well, it doesn't.
operating
No.
a
Obviously, it
real
doesn't matter
company
because
out of
they're
the
evading
United
taxes.
States anyways? You know what I
they're
mean?
evading taxes. But if they weren't, are there tiers to it, or is it?
Yeah, well, we fall into a tier because we don't make a certain amount of money that we get taxed higher. I mean, like, so I know that that tier exists. I mean, I don't have like a $50 million like net worth company or anything, so I
Yeah.
can't tell you about like, but I can tell you as somebody trying to get started that it's difficult. It's challenging from that perspective. As somebody that's like already juggling the trials of business ownership, which is like I manage all my own time. You know, I manage all of the assets that come to the company. I'm the one that's doing all of the quoting for like the work that comes in, you know, and this applies to my business. I have a business partner as well, so that kind of helps take some of the load off. But like both of us basically literally do everything for our company. We don't have a department of people that are drawing all the things that we need for customers. We don't have somebody that's like dealing with the customer relation type deals. You know, it's like we're doing everything. And I feel like there's probably tons of small business owners out there that feel like that, you know, especially in 2020, it was difficult. Like there was like it was like we couldn't even get to the banks fast enough to secure like a PPP loan, that first like round of stimulus or stuff that like went out to help small businesses was immediately snatched up by all the corporate interests. So it's like we couldn't even apply for something like that. It's just like, why does McDonald's CEO need stimulus?
Yeah, I
and
know
then
that
they
a lot of the they didn't get in
you
trouble
know?
for it, but like a lot of people were upset at those companies. Some of them gave their money back, but they got it initially, which kind of probably prevented you from getting it.
Yeah, exactly. And it was like, so why is the board of directors at Amazon receiving all the stimulus and companies that are struggling to make ends meet not? You know what I mean?
Well, it's socialism for the rich and rugged individualism for the poor. You know, it's like,
It is.
and they dangle the carrot over you. Basically, they're like, oh, like you can make it up, but like after you earn a certain amount of money, you get like your food stamps cut, or like you get like means tested out of a bunch of other things that help you.
Yeah.
That's the weird thing. Like, if we don't change the laws at the same time that if the minimum wage gets raised, anyone who's making minimum wage now would be outside the means test of food stamps as soon as the wage gets raised. Which means that unless we change that law at the same time, it will just absolutely fuck over literally everyone who's currently on food stamps.
Yeah, tons of people that need food.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the minimum wage, like it should be tied to an updated, like what is considered poverty. Because in the United States, what's considered like legally like a amount of money that you can live on, or when you're considered to be like in need or something like that.
Does anybody know what that is?
We
Like,
It's just like old as hell.
We need
Let
to
me
we need
see.
to like manually review the minimum wage, I believe, probably every year or two. It just needs to be.
what are your thoughts on that? What do you think about
Me?
raising it
I
to
think
$15?
I think the minimum wage makes. I'm not 100% certain that it needs to be like the minimum you can pay someone needs to be enough to like survive off of, because the idea of the minimum wage was it's supposed to be like it's not supposed to be for like someone who's doing a like full-time work for their regular job. It's supposed to
Like,
be for
it's
like
still supposed to incentivize people
yeah,
to
well,
move
no,
up.
but like the thing is, right now that's what it's being used as, though, which is the problem.
Yeah.
Because people,
Okay,
Right.
so here's the
people have minimum wage jobs, and that's what they're doing day to day, and that's how they're trying to pay their rent and stuff. Minimum wage is intended for like students who are like working summer jobs and they've never had a job before. Like that was its original intention, and then like anyone else would get paid more than that. But that's not really how it works anymore. And I would not say that most people are not getting paid minimum wage, but they're not getting paid much more than minimum wage.
Right.
And the cost
I think
of
I
other
made
goods,
$9 an hour when I first moved to Madison.
Yeah, and
and
the
I thought
cost
that
of
was
goods
so
has
much
gone up.
coming from Tennessee.
So like,
Yeah, but I mean, these places are open during school hours, so I'm pretty like I don't know what it is about jobs that are designed for a particular kind of person, you know?
well, I mean, it's fair, but it's like obviously like someone who's like first job, maybe they don't have very much experience. You might have to like teach them a lot of things. Maybe they're not worth as much as like someone who's not. But that said, the current minimum wage extremely low, not very worth. I think it needs to be updated. And I think,
But like, what? So like, but you ultimately agree, and I'm not trying to like bias or anything, but you ultimately would say that like, not like as far as jobs are concerned or career is concerned or experience level is concerned, not everybody is equal.
well, yeah.
Right.
So I would say that like I do think that if you're working for someone, no matter kind of what you're doing, you deserve to be paid. And I do,
Right.
but I would say like yes, me like in high school, not as valuable as me now.
Right.
And like I think that regardless of what I was doing, even if I was not doing anything that I had skill in, just the fact
Yeah.
that I'm older and have more life experience, and probably would not be as much of a doof as high school me.
Right.
Sounds like I would probably just be a better employee. That said, that you can't just generalize and be like all people who are older are better, I guess.
Yeah.
But like it makes sense for like a job like intended for like a high schooler, like maybe you're a lifeguard, would get paid less than someone who like does stuff all times. But also, I guess I'm gatekeeping what people could consider a career, because like some people are.
No, that's like where it becomes kind of like difficult in the conversation to like, you don't want to like generalize every job because it's just like,
Yeah, and that like
Here's
it's
the
a
thing:
weird scenario.
every job can have like an theoretically infinite skill cap, right? Because
Sure.
you can always understaff more, right? When it comes to restaurants, like it may be easy to do it when it's like one customer at a time or something like that. But if
Yeah.
it's like a rush or like a constant rush, and you're dealing like with these kinds of conditions, and you're able to do so well, that is a completely different ability. You get all like these emergent properties that occur in like dealing with things like interpersonally or whatever. Like at my job at Brazeros, I was paid as much as other people, but I spoke two languages, right? But it wasn't about like what I was worth or what I was able to do. It's about what I could negotiate, like who could replace you, or
Yeah.
um,
And like, but the minimum wage obviously it's not being used as it was originally intended, but I believe it was originally intended to like be like, here's the literal minimum you should ever be paying anyone, and then most jobs you're going to be more than this. But I just feel like a lot of people, like especially with like 2008, people were out of work, people stayed in the workforce, they lost their retirement. We're still feeling the repercussions of that even now.
And then we got slapped with the pandemic.
Then we got slapped with the pandemic. So people are in bad financial shape, and like people are working. People who maybe wouldn't normally still be working. Maybe they're maybe their husband.
Let's be real. It's young people.
Well, yes. So young people, but like people who just like maybe like they went back to work, and so they're now have a job that maybe a young person would have normally. They like it's just people are so people are so desperate for a lot of employment, particularly like things that are not like don't require degrees and such. And even a lot of industries that are getting saturated, like computer science, is much more saturated than when I was learning it originally. Now, not that it's reached saturation point, but it's not. I feel like a few years ago, everyone was just completely desperate for developers, and they would pay almost any price. People are still desperate for developers, but there's a little bit less. There's a little bit more competition on the employee side to get the good jobs, and that just I think that happens with basically every industry. Like as there's like a big need for people, salaries go up, and so people are like, I want to go to school for that. And obviously, by no means is computer science a bad industry to go into, because
so the idea of skilled work, like all work is skilled, I think.
Yeah, I agree, but like,
but your value is mostly dictated by market forces.
Well, now, like as just speaking from my own experience, like I'd say that like because there's less of a focus on trades in general in the United States, and there's less people in that workforce.
Do you think that values you
higher?
Yeah.
Like I can charge like $100 an hour comfortably for my services. You know what I mean? Like that's because I graduated with 12 people. That's not lost on me either, because I also want to like encourage people, if like any young people ever to watch this, and you're thinking about trades, you think it might be right for you, go into it. If you're thinking about computer science and you think that's right for you, go into it and explore it. You know what I mean?
I would say do anything that everybody else isn't doing, right? Like if you go into land surveying, like who's land surveying?
We gotta have Alex Crutchwell on the podcast talk about land surveying.
You know what a good, clean, technical job is? Actually, it's funny. My woodworking instructor and like sensei basically told me this the day before I graduated. He was just like, you guys know what you should have gone into? And we're like, are you kidding me? You're telling us what we should have gone into now, like before we graduate? And he's like, yeah, should have been an elevator mechanic, man. Clean technical work, and nobody does it. And I was like, damn it, I should have been an elevator mechanic. Like,
also, you get that
dude that gets big money
they install
because
that elevator. They're not getting a new one.
Yeah,
it's not happening.
There's this guy that makes big money as a glass blower because he's the only guy that can make like these enormous kinds of bulbs that like physics classes use for some kind of like electric thing. Like he's the one guy that does that. And so pay him like so much money because he's just like, oh, economies of scale, right? I have to feed myself. This is what I gotta do.
Yeah. I mean,
mathematics, I can charge like $50 an hour sometimes if I'm teaching somebody something like really hard, like calculus 3, and I get paid more than a fucking nurse, like.
Yeah. I mean, as far as like what I do, I have another advantage from like learning how to draft and stuff, which I think is like another skill that like a lot of people can draft, and there's a lot of people like graduating high school that know how to do like CAD and stuff. But like as far as like the contracting world is concerned, like you would be surprised at how many other contractors I've met that like don't even know how to use a computer. And the fact that like I know how to like make a complex Excel spreadsheet to like help me quote things, and like then also draw something so that people can visualize it, and then you can charge a lot for that, is like another huge leg up that I also think is like more people from maybe our age and probably younger need to like start exploring, like the fact that we all grew up with computers and know how to use them.
Yeah, we're like in a whole society of people basically that informs each other of things that we learn on the computer.
Yeah. Yeah, there's so many people when I worked in my first like factory job right out of after graduation as just like a drafter for a big factory. Like most of the department was like there was a couple boomers and like most people were like late Gen Xers and like they all knew how to use AutoCAD, but they didn't know how to like model anything or like they didn't understand like I don't know, it was really weird. Like they didn't understand how to use the computer as like an overall tool. They only knew how to use like one thing on the computer.
Yeah.
Like the project managers there, they knew how to use Excel. And
Oh yeah,
then
yeah.
the drafters there, they knew how to use AutoCAD, but they didn't know how to use Excel. And it was just like, here I come, and I eventually became their CAD administrator and stuff, and like just because like I was better at like figuring out how to install it on everybody's computer. Like
Yeah,
that's easy shit for like somebody that grew up with a computer in their hand. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I think sometimes it's just about like the core concept. I think that we have kind of like an idea of our heads of how computers fundamentally work, especially if we've been programming them, but also just using them so much. But I also think it happens like with how differently we were educated with mathematics. Like I think that when we were going through math, we were just at the cusp of like the Common Core math that focused more on conceptual understanding. But like when it comes to the way that like boomers or like Gen Xers, late Gen Xers learn math, it was very procedural. It was very like you get
the two, like
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like, and you don't know why you're carrying it, or maybe like next time someone asks you like a word problem, you wouldn't be able to solve the word problem because it doesn't look like the numbers you were manipulating on the page. And so that it causes the thinking to be different. Like rather than just memorizing what you're supposed to do, like you know that that's where the button is, and then you get upset when the layout changes or whatever. Like with every update, it's more like, the concept. Yeah, sorry.
What do you guys think about like our generation or people around our age taking like the gig economy in stride? You know what I
So
mean?
I think it makes sense because everyone who grew up with like computers, like our learning has never been static because things are constantly changing. It's not like we like got the Windows 98 and we stopped at that point.
Yeah.
Like things change every day, things change every year, and
I also
drastically.
think we have like access to way more information than a lot of previous generations.
We can Google anything in several seconds, and that makes us
Yeah.
just by default, unless you're being misinformed by it, that makes you more intelligent than if you didn't have that. Because
Right.
you have all of humanity's information at your fingertips, almost.
Yeah.
Unless it's behind a paywall. But like
most like general information you can find on Wikipedia.
Yeah.
And you can go down a rabbit hole of like random shit on Wikipedia.
But I think the fact that everyone was everyone who like from our generation and especially the generation below us, I bet they probably are even more drastic in this way. Things
Gen
just,
Z.
Yeah, things.
Have you guys had the opportunity to work with any Gen Zers? I've worked with.
I don't know. We're Gen Zers, you know, like
we're on the cusp.
Yeah.
We're very
I identified with a lot more millennial stuff. I feel like.
I think I identify more with Zoomers a bit, like you know, like when it comes to their politics specifically.
I agree with that. I think I like disagree with millennials.
Or the meme outlook, right? Like millennials, like when we were coming of age, right? Memes were a new thing, and you were kind of weird if you talked about them.
We were the original
like
memers,
at least for some portion of it.
Like
what? Sorry, you cut out.
We were the original memers. I'm part of the meme generation.
That's true.
Get with
yeah, but now memes are like
definitely meme generation, like concentrated.
Yeah, like we were starting it out. People were normies if they didn't understand memes. Like there was like an insider outsider culture, but now it's everywhere.
There was definitely like a 2-year, 3-year period where it was like, oh yes, we've got all these memes, these spicy memes that no one knows about. And
but now
I understand.
Yeah, you're totally right. It's everybody, and then it's perpetuated by the fact that they were all on online school this year. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
so it's with Gen Z, like they're definitely more on like they're like the meme literacy.
They were okay. We adopted the meme.
Is high.
The meme was born during our life. We adopted
What do you
the
mean?
meme.
We perfected the meme. Like our generation, like
They were
created.
born in the meme.
We were there for advice, dog.
They were
Fucking
born in
advice,
the
dog.
no. The memes were
You
born.
guys remember Wimp.com?
Yes, I do remember Wimp.com. I really liked it. But
You're the man now, dog. Albino black sheep, Newgrounds.
The
Lion
meme was
cat.
born during our lifetime. They were born in a world of memes. Okay.
Yeah.
We
just
they had not
adopted the
known
meme.
as-
They were born
Look,
into
this
it.
means they are so proficient at memes. They do not know a reality where memes do not exist. They've been formulating these in their mind the whole time. I feel like memes today, much less forced memes back. Everyone wanted to make a meme template. And they were just like, this isn't funny.
I think they were just younger when memes started for them. You know, like when I was the first memories that I kind of formulated around a computer, I was on a yoga ball playing some kind of like Curious George vocabulary game, like in California. But like,
what the hell was it? Like those point and click adventures, like Arthur the Aardvark point and click adventures.
yeah, they're like little learning games.
The learning company.
But when I came to like Tennessee, I think I was like in elementary school, right? But memes didn't become a thing until like late-ish middle school, or like
they really didn't start becoming like a big thing for me, anyways, until like early high school.
Yeah, I didn't really know about memes until high school, honestly.
I just got exposed to them through like
That's when Rage
RuneScape.
comics came out.
Our group would talk about shit like the Ponies Anthology and like
what?
Just the dumbest, like looking back on it, probably cringe tier like stuff. But like, you were right. We were like, oh, this is so spicy. I gotta like Duncan fucking printed a meme out for me one time for my birthday.
It was the early days. No one knew the editing.
Yeah, you couldn't just like generate one on a website and send it to your friend. Like
we had the fucking like troll face saga, like all those like different characters.
The whole Rage comic troll face thing, probably the worst memes that have ever been created. But they were so prolific in their heyday.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the Feels guy turned into Wojak, and then the troll face guy. They have like there's this sort of like double ironic revival of dead memes that happens like with Pickle Rick like every 6 months. Like,
or you know, the very first meme I can really remember was the like Icon has cheeseburger cat.
Oh yeah,
you guys remember that?
Like, yeah. Lolcats.
That was like. Yeah, Lolcats was like early. That would have been like middle school. I do vaguely remember seeing like memes. Austin Carter fucking introduced me to 4chan early on in high school.
Oh yeah. That's like trauma.
I went down a rabbit hole with that one, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I wonder. I mean, I haven't worked with like a ton of like Zoomers, and I don't know a bunch of them obviously because they're all like still in school and stuff. But like. Some of them are just starting to graduate into college and stuff. I had like brief chances to work with them at like UW and stuff, like as they were students, and I worked like briefly in the carpentry division at UW, and like I just remember like their approach to the world was so much more sarcastic than my own. I don't know how to describe it, but even though like I already thought our generation's approach was pretty sarcastic. You know, like we already thought everything was a joke. This generation has taken that feeling and taken it to the next level.
Yeah.
Like they're just even more extreme about it than we ever were. You know?
That's why I like getting on TikTok and seeing the kind of shit that happens on there, because it seems like now there are many sources of different memes. Like there's Twitter memes, there's Tumblr memes, there's like the Reddit memes, and they all have their own kind of characteristics. But the kind of like post leftist like nihilistic like content is like there's like this kind of like doomerism on TikTok that you can't really find elsewhere. And it's just like people being born into basically the climate crisis, the Trump administration, right? Like they were in high school throughout the whole Trump administration. Like we were there during the Obama administration, and the closest pipeline to memes was basically like, since they're like 6 years younger than us, like if they're not Cuspers, because we're right at the edge, they would be exposed like from their older brother or older sister, like showing them a meme or something like that.
Imagine school. Imagine your entire high school experience was in the Trump administration rather than.
Oh, I would be bullied like shit, and I would get in so many more fights, because even during the Obama administration
was just online school where you're just sending rapid fire memes back and forth to your classmates.
Yeah.
I just like I don't know if there's like, to me the difference really between, and I know we're cuspers, right? Like we're right on the edge, so we have the ability to like relate more to the Gen Zers than like maybe our older brothers and sisters might or something.
The Harry Potter, Andrew Bird, Neutral Milk Hotel.
Yeah, we can also relate to like Shazam or like Shaq Diesel movies from the 90s or like Nickelodeon shit. Like we can relate to that because we grew up with it. Like our sisters, like my older brother made me watch The Matrix at a young age. You know what I mean? Like that kind of shit.
Yeah.
But we also connect with that like nihilistic view and stuff. And I totally like lost my train of thought. Like I don't know where I was taking that.
The postmodern meme nihilism.
Oh, I think the difference, right? The difference between like what I notice in that generation is their approach to things is completely different. Like we still have the ability with each other. If we were all like hanging out in the same room, we could all sit down and play Smash Brothers like on the GameCube together, and it would be like we were all right back in high school or something. Like we have this like face-to-face communication that we can still do. I think like that Generation Z has a bigger struggle with like real communication and trying to like face.
Honestly, I think we had that problem.
We're just younger. Yeah.
I think we had that problem too.
Yeah.
I definitely had that problem to some extent that I mean, not anymore. I've completely been.
You're older now though.
Yeah,
so.
but true. But in high school, I was definitely like very like anxiety. I was like, oh God, I have to have a conversation with someone. Like,
yeah, like you didn't want to be super like confronted with like actually having to talk to somebody.
Well, I mean, like,
I think it's just life stage, but for Zoomers in particular, like I think that I just think that like too many people are starting to dunk on Gen Z as if they're fucking boomers with the millennials and the fucking avocado toast.
I don't think they're boomers like at all. Like
no.
I think that because of like the way they grew up with technology,
they're the quarantines.
Technology has changed so quickly just in the time that we've graduated from high school. You know, like by in like the beginning of high school, I got like my first like smartphone. It was like a shitty touchscreen.
Yeah, that's
and you could barely
like
make it do anything.
That's something that's important to note. Like the first iPhone came out like a few years before we got into high school.
Like right before,
like,
and then by the end of high school, I had like the fucking Galaxy Super.
And now,
phone,
like
right?
now, people who are like 10 are getting like latest phones. Not that they shouldn't. We live in 2021.
No,
like,
but I think like that interaction with technology is still different. Like we were. Yeah. Like because have you ever seen that chart where like technology grows like at an exponential rate? So like it goes up really quick. It's like logarithmic or whatever. So like we were like at the beginning of that like transitional from 90s like Windows 95 to like before the president was like before the like Amin got elected president. Like that's when we kind of grew up together, and like that was a very like there was still a very stark difference between like the internet and hanging out with your buddies. You know what I mean? There was just it was two different things.
Yeah.
And it's like you said with memes earlier, it was like you're a normie, but like we were all part of our little meme group, so like we could be like cringy together, but like we couldn't tell like the normies about it. Like that changed now that everybody doesn't have that anymore, I guess.
Yeah, because it's no longer that thing where people just think, oh, it's the internet. Like the nihilistic attitude of 4chan is it's the internet, so it doesn't matter. If you're bullied, just close your eyes. But now it's like, no, actually the internet is real life. Actually, it's like a political sphere. It has no separation
That
from
is-
real physical space.
Yeah, it's like it's become like more even I think at this age where we're all at now,
Yeah,
we
no,
can all
definitely.
admit
This
that
is something I haven't
social
thought about.
media is part of our lives, like, you know what I mean, in a much stronger way than it was when we were in high school.
I mean, you can just look at the fact that for Trump's entire presidency, he treated Twitter as like an announcement platform.
Yeah,
Like that.
exactly.
I definitely agree that like people's lives have become more. Like definitely when like we were growing up, the internet was like a separate thing. You would maybe go there for some information, and maybe you'd find some news on there, but it wasn't like you're not connected to what's happening on the internet 24/7. So
Yeah, now it's like I
now-
look at my phone every 10 minutes.
now people are like weaving in and out of the internet. Yeah, like every 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's hard to like I try and separate. I think a lot of people do when you're like whenever I'm doing
Well,
fun
no,
stuff with
I
my
think
friends.
maybe, but is that because of your age? Is that because of the time you came from?
Maybe.
Like, do you think people that are younger than us are doing that?
I think
Like,
Well,
there's-
I think there's another factor here. Our parents didn't understand that much about technology, so we had a lot less parental controls. But like, if you have different like younger parents that might have been affected by technology differently, would they be able to like control that? Or if you have like your own smartphone or something, are you able to just like go up in your room and like look up anything you want? Like back in the day, you had to look up your porn on the Wii because like,
David.
some
I
shit
use my
like-
Xbox.
yeah.
Oh my god.
You know what I'm saying? Like, what does that trauma do to people? I don't think that being exposed to pornography at the age that I have has been that good for me, you know? But like psychologically speaking, like what's like you can only speculate about that, you know? Like,
I wonder. I mean, think about the shit that was going around when we were like in high school. Cause like I'm sure. I mean, obviously, like we're not in the same kind of like fear as like some high school kids might be, but I do know like when we were in high school, we'd get like people be like, "Oh, look up like 2 girls, 1 cup or whatever," and like that was
yeah.
this disgusting
If-
thing that we all like like what is going around now?
If you're
you
a
know,
high
like-
schooler and you're watching this, please leave a comment or email us at
Get
intothezeitgeist@gmail.com.
therapy. Like in the
We
future,
want to
get
have
therapy.
you on our show.
if you watch 2 girls, 1 cup,
No,
let us know what you think of it in the comments below. No, joking. Don't look that
We're
up.
demonetized.
Oh my
We don't have
God.
monetization anyways, Chris. It doesn't
We
matter.
traumatize each other. Like 4chan was full of gore and things like that. That was not good. That was not good for us.
No, definitely not. So that's why I'm thinking like maybe that definitely compounded in myself anyways, like a more nihilistic outlook than I think I might have had whether I wasn't exposed to it or not.
I tried
you
to
know?
avoid most of that stuff. Like I did not really go
I
on
do
4chan.
now.
I didn't really go on 4chan. I was just like, Pablo, what's the happenings on 4chan?
Yeah.
I'm on 4chan, Pablo.
I mean, it's like it was a very big curiosity for me because they did the Scientology thing. I was very like I think early on I was into more like Richard Dawkins type YouTube, right? Like
Yeah.
I would watch YouTube videos where Richard Dawkins is owning the fundies, or like that back when Thunderfoot, like before he went on this crazy thing where he just makes video after video about Anita Sarkeesian, like because she's a feminist who studies video games. Like
Not to tangent too much, but YouTube in and of itself is a completely different animal. from
Oh
when we-
yes.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
Now it's
Back in the day.
It used to be the Wild West. People would just like make whatever the fuck they wanted, and now,
Yeah.
like you would like things that would blow up, just like random stuff, some random
Yeah.
cat.
And YouTube was one of those things. I'm sure it's the same for you guys, where it's like one of those early. I mean, like
yeah,
I'm sure we were all there right at the advent
Every-
of it.
like, no
I
one-
remember just using it like
no one back then
first
made
year
YouTube videos
existed.
with the intention of like making money off of it, like
or becoming like these
or becoming,
regular
like, a
channels
weird-
where
yeah.
you subscribe to the channel and watch them, release their weekly videos
they were
or
just
whatever.
interested in making a video because they thought it was fun.
Yeah,
And then it
but
just-
the idea of making a career out of
no,
a
it didn't
YouTube
exist at
channel,
all. It was
not a
entirely
thing.
just like this is a hobby. Let's go.
yeah, the first person was basically Fred.
When do you
And
think?
It was amazing the kind of interactions that would happen on media, like when Fred showed up on iCarly and he talked about how people like fights, like when two people fight, that like drives up like ratings and things like that. But then that would happen like later with like Logan Paul and his other brother or whatever. Like they would feud with each other and that would drive up their own ratings. Like there's like this media literacy that was like growing along that time, but also like the media got a bit like more regulated. Like now YouTube, like you can get flagged for all sorts of things. But back in the day, I feel like the reason why cuspers like us are like a bit more edgy, like or something like that, is because like what was on the internet was straight up vile, most of the time. And so if you don't,
I don't know if there's as much like vile stuff that's like beneath the surface anymore. I feel like that's
definitely 4chan.
There's a lot of vile stuff on Twitter that's just people arguing with each other. But I don't really feel like there's anything new that we didn't experience.
Yeah, but I'm talking about like let's say like more like the Newgrounds type things. Like there was like this show about like.
Anymore though?
Yeah, Newgrounds still exists.
Yeah, but do young people go to Newgrounds?
No, I don't think so.
I don't even think they know what it is anymore.
It's like, but Newgrounds was like the place where you had like the happy tree friends of like the little like animals that would gore each other constantly, or just like
you guys remember a lot of Salad Fingers? Do you guys ever watch Salad Fingers?
God, don't bring it up.
My salad
fingers. Shit like you're right. Shit like that does not get made anymore though. Now it's like. It's like Jake Paul, Logan Paul.
But maybe it is getting made, but it's just.
But you get like a thick skin, right? You grow like this kind of thick skin to like put up with it, but it's actually not good that you have that thick skin because it makes you like bad at being like good, But like, I think that the internet environment is very different. Like when it comes to like younger people, I think that they're less edgy for it, and that's why there's like a lot more like etiquette and norms. Like there's been more established procedures a bit like socially when it comes to the internet.
That's why I think TikTok is so fun because it's just like basically just I mean, there's negative stuff on there, but it's pretty much everyone's just trying to like be goofy and have fun. And I
don't have a TikTok. I've like never experienced it.
You should download it. It is pretty good. But also
I don't know if I want to.
Also, you should delete it afterwards because you will waste your hours on TikTok.
Yeah.
Like I waste enough time on Reddit. Like
Pablo
Reddit
and I have been just experimenting with different TikToks.
Well, yeah, I feel like Reddit has like a different hive mind. Like the TikTok, like I feel like it gets very customized, and you get put like I got put in like the bilingual like Hispanic section. Like there's now like people who like speak Spanish that can see my videos, because I put like one video in Spanish. Like it's very interesting how it works.
Like, it tailors it to your.
Yeah, well, I like talked about the stock market a few times, and now every video I get is like, "Ooh, let me buy Bitcoin." Like, like, I don't want to listen to you stock advice. Like,
yeah, I get like guitarist memes because I posted some things with like guitar. It's like whatever hashtag you put on your videos, whatever it is that you comment on, it works with like what you like. With Reddit, like you have to kind of tailor it yourself. You subscribe to the different things, but like with Reddit, like there's always this thing like whenever you go into a forum that you just start forming so many opinions. I don't know what it is.
I think the problem with Reddit as well is you're not organically discovering anything unless it's on the front page, at which point everyone's discovering it. But like, if your regular Reddit that you've set up, you're only interacting with these like little communities, and it's really easy to get caught in a hive mind that like literally everyone has the exact same opinion. Like if you're on like, let's just say you're on the StarCraft 2 subreddit, a subreddit that I used to frequent a lot. People have very strict opinions about StarCraft 2 on that subreddit. And if you dissent on those opinions, people will not be happy about it.
Yeah, they'll downvote you.
They'll downvote you.
Yeah.
I don't like that aspect of it. I'm more of a lurker, I guess. But like, I'd say the two biggest like social media kind of like things I consume are Reddit and YouTube. I spend like way too much time
way too much time on YouTube. Here's the question.
I love YouTube.
I also love YouTube. But also, here's the question: when do you think that like YouTube like crossed over from being like a weird thing like a website?
I don't know. I
Because like
don't
there was a
know.
point where you'd go on YouTube like
Oh,
once
I know
or
exactly
twice,
when. I
once
know
or twice a
exactly when.
month.
2016, because it feels like it was after high school. But like
Yeah,
I grew up like just YouTube from like the fucking inception. I've been watching YouTube, and I've always loved it, and I still love it, even if in its current form. And I don't even know why I love it so
so
much
I feel like
now.
I used to like go to on YouTube like once or twice a month, maybe more frequently than that. I feel like I probably watched a video at least every day actually, but I wasn't like watching lots of videos. And
Yeah,
now I might just have a
now
video going all the time. I'm
all
just
the time, dude. Same. And it's a
yeah.
lot. And I've been subscribing to people and getting my experience with
Yeah,
it like
I
more
have like
tailored and stuff.
500 subscribed channels. I'm
Yeah, and it's
the
like it's always cranking
YouTube.
out content that I want. It's like constant stream of fresh content compared to
YouTube
like
is
other
like
streaming services like Netflix. Shit is stale after a week. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to watch Peaky Blinders season 4 30 times around. Like I don't care about it that much. Like
yeah.
YouTube, every day there's a new
Every
video
day
for
there's
you.
something good. Some days better
I
stuff than
think that
others,
YouTube
but
is
Yeah.
just like the new television. It's just come to encompass that space. Television would throw content at you. It wouldn't be like so much like the internet where you're like surfing the web. This like concept of actively interacting with it. With this, you subscribe to a bunch of channels.
Somebody else is kind of
well, yeah.
tailoring what's streaming to you, and you found a couple TV channels
We've
that you're like,
removed all actual barriers to entry. Really, you have to
Yeah, 'cause-
have a
yeah.
device to record yourself on, and you have to have an internet connection. This is
Yeah.
testament to our podcast existing because we're putting like the minimum effort in to make a podcast.
and it's
Yeah,
happening.
but there's also kind of like
Like-
it's professionalized a lot. It's professionalized a great deal because there's like people who have high video quality, audio
Yeah.
fidelity.
No, but
effects
this
background.
year in particular has changed a lot of stuff as far as just like this format working. You know what I mean? Like,
Well,
in my-
yeah, podcasts have been coming up for a few years. Like, I was
Yeah, I
I was
agree.
listening to podcasts back in high school, and I feel like no one was listening to podcasts back then. But then, like around my freshman year of college, is when like Serial came out, and people started listening to
Oh, man.
podcasts.
Serial's so
That
good.
was like a lot of people's intro to podcasts, and then
Yeah.
my favorite form of podcast, which is why I kind of wanted to start this show, just because I was like, I'm in quarantine, why not? But
Yeah.
I just like the conversational discussions because I feel like it's
I
really
love these kinds of
it's
podcasts.
really easy to get into them, but you can also completely zone out
You can walk away and you can come back.
and don't have to worry
It
about
doesn't
pausing
really
it.
matter
Because
because
honestly,
the topic
whatever I'm
is not
saying,
really teaching, right?
yeah, whatever I'm
Like-
saying, it's not that important. If you miss 20 minutes of it, I don't think it's going to be the end of the world.
Yeah.
Feel free to skip 20 minutes of this podcast.
I'm like looking at this list on Wikipedia, and it's like the list of neologisms. And this is a new thing I discovered because I frequently go through Wikipedia's list of lists, which I
that
think
a-
is like the
that a
best thing on the internet.
Neopets would be my guess.
No, neologism. Yeah, no, it's like new words, but it goes by when they were coined. So you can go all the way up to 2019, and you would get things like or like phrases that became like mimetic, like Epstein didn't kill himself, 2019. Get Brexit done. How dare you? Like it also says like UK things, but it can give you like an idea of like what kinds of things were happening at that time. 2017, Kofefe.
Is that 2017 already? Oh my gosh, that's so
Yeah,
long
me
ago.
too. 2016, what happened? Basket of deplorables, dirtbag left, grab him by the pussy. That was 2016. 2014.
I think that the
Hands up,
last
cheap, I
4
can't
years, just like whether or not you are a Trump supporter or against him, I think Trump getting elected was like cataclysmic in a lot of different senses for the United States, like especially our culture here.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it feels like the last 4 years are in its own little time vortex for me. Like
Well, yeah.
2016 seems so long ago, and I know like the pandemic exacerbated my sense of time.
Yeah. I mean, it's like the before. Like before the pandemic is this whole different era of time where you had outside and day night cycle. But before Trump, there was like this whole time, in the beginning of college and during high school, where I did like I'm a fairly white passing Latino, but after Trump became president, I became a lot less of a of like a I became way more foreign, although I have spent a higher proportion of my life in this country.
Yeah.
And so it just like the climate just shifted.
Yeah,
You know?
totally.
Very tangibly. And I would say that this is like a big like thing for Latinos, particularly under the Trump administration, because he's like a shift. I think that he just really upped the racism for like Arab people and Hispanic people. And right now during the pandemic, things are really like the hate crimes and stuff are really up for Asian people.
You know, he had really high support amongst Hispanic people, though.
Cubans.
Was it Cubans?
Cubans, yeah.
Wow.
Or you would get like those people that
Sophie's from Mexico, and like the first time I went and visited there was 2016, and I was there for like a month, and all of her friends immediately wanted to know like, did I vote for Trump or not? And I was like, no, I didn't. They're like, okay, good, because like, fuck you if you did. Like, get the fuck out of our country. And I was just like, no, I feel that. Like, he was trying to build a wall. I get you, you know?
Yeah.
Like, but I definitely always thought it was like a weird statistic to learn this year, like during the this last year during the election, that like a lot of Hispanic people were like voting for him in the South.
I would be really interested to know how like what's the breakdown versus like white Hispanics, because there'd be like people like me who just come from like upper middle class families that had an education in the other country. They were privileged enough to be able to get into this country legally and so on. Or there would be like other upper crust like Mexican people who came legally and they just don't like Guatemalans or Nicaraguans or you know.
I think like that's like a weird phenomenon to me, but that's like almost along the same lines as like the like if you're like within a certain race and you betray that, like white people like KKK members hate white people that don't agree with them even more than they hate black people, you know what I mean? Or like something like that, because I saw a video once on a YouTube of like this black guy who would go to like KKK rallies and convince some of the KKK members that like racism isn't cool, shocker, you know, and they'd be like, I'm friends with a black guy now, like that kind of deal or whatever. But like he was talking to like another young black person once, and like the guy got like so mad at him for even like attempting to go and like reconcile with another race or something, and I just like thought that was like a really interesting dynamic, because now like we just went up like north like last February into like northern Wisconsin, which is like super rural. Trump flags were still up everywhere. It's February, like fucking election's over, it's done, you know, but they still have Trump flags flying everywhere. And I feel like those communities like immediately just I don't know, I felt like not like comfortable anymore like walking around in that situation. I don't know why. Like I don't know if they could tell that like I was one of those liberal Madison city folk that they hate so much, you know, but like I just felt like I feel like there's this like such a huge weird divide now in our country, and the lines are so strange because like when the actual Civil War happened in the 1800s, it was like shoo, south, north, plantations, no plantations, we want slaves, we don't want slaves. And now it's like county lines are the division, you know, like 2 counties from me there's a fuckload of Trump supporters still that are like pissed off that he didn't get the presidency, and like they hate people from Madison now just for being like in a more liberal progressive area. Like what, like I don't know, like that's disturbing to me that there's no longer a line in this country. It's just the lines are everywhere and they're blurred. Or that's what I think. I don't know what you guys think.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, like, I think I've always kind of felt like this, like, especially when it comes to people who are like, impeach Obama and stuff like that. I'd be like, this is a dangerous place for me to be around, because I would like go to like parents, like grandparents' houses or whatever. I mean, no, my friends' like grandparents' houses, and they would like have the group like prayer thing or whatever. Money would go missing, and then like the parents would be like, "Ah, yeah, that Pablo kid." Yeah, and it would just be like the fucking pill addict cousin or some shit.
Yeah,
And then
the shit that's like also stealing money from their mom. Like,
yeah. And so I got the memo pretty early. Pretty early when I came to Tennessee from California, and like people were like, I was the person who was being picked on and like being called like a border jumper or some shit like in middle school on the bus.
and Tennessee
Where's
from
that sixth in?
Chicago. Tennessee coming from Chicago for me when I first started high school there was such a like fucking culture shock for me. Like, actually, Pablo, you like might remember this, but we were like in Spanish 2 together freshman year of high school with Mr. Gonzalez.
Mm-hmm.
And like I couldn't even understand Mr. Gonzalez because he had like that southern drawl mixed with like his very heavy Venezuelan accent. And I just remember like wanting to drop out immediately of that class because like I was like I can't even understand what he's saying. And it took me probably 2 months before I understood what a lot of people were saying to me down in like Tennessee. Like
Wait, did you understand what I would speak like? Because I had
yeah, I heard like yeah. In fact, you sounded more normal to me than most people did. But like you had spent time in California, right? Like
well, I also spent like a year in Colorado when I was like 2 years old, and that's what I credit a
well,
bit.
like John,
having-
I know like John doesn't have a southern accent. Like you wouldn't even like really know that John.
I think that's because I was born. Well, I wasn't born in Oak Ridge, but I lived in Oak Ridge my entire life, and Oak Ridge is like a weird city. It's not.
Oak Ridge is a weird city. I just remember there being some people with accents so heavy, and
Maybe I don't know, but
they would just complain to me that I talk too fast, you know, or like. And I was
Oh, you
just
got
like,
that high Chicago thing with.
one time,
I don't know how
David
to.
Henderson asked me if I had a pencil to borrow, and I was just like, "What the fuck is a pencil? I'm sorry, I don't have one. Like, I don't know what that is." And he was just like, grabbed somebody else's pencil off the desk. He's like, "This dumbass," and I was like, "Oh, pencil. Okay, that's what you want."
I want
Here you
to.
go.
I want
Like-
to bring up the fact that Metal Gear Solid 2 has become super close to real life in like 2018, 2019, 2020. Like there's this like scene in Metal Gear Solid 2 where like it turns out that everything's a lie and like the main character has just been talking to AI the entire time and he just
Yeah.
finds out and it's like the Patriots is what the bad guys were called and they're like what we propose to do is not to control content but to create context and like a quote, the digital society furthers human flaws and selectively rewards development of convenient half-truths. Just look at the strange juxtapositions of morality around you. I feel like this is very represented like by like Twitter politics. Like everyone's just trying to one up each other on like they
I mean, with the Q conspiracy machine is something that is very unique because it depends so highly on like this collective hive mind of conspiracist connection and thinking like that like can connect like these disparate things like from chemtrails on one end to like anti-vax on another, and it just kind of turns it all into this like big giant thing. And because of a lot of people's like need for control, I read some papers that like one of the biggest driving forces for people believing conspiracies is a fundamental lack of security and a need for control and the belief that there is structure and predictability in their environment. So like it like with this collective meaning making process on the internet, I feel like it's kind of like that. Like you have the creation of the context, like the ideology in which people interpret the facts that are like coming to them. Because it's just there's like an information overload and people can like select certain parts of it, but it's like a societal effect, you know.
Well,
So it's like
it blew up because of the pandemic. Though.
that's the especially weird part because like okay, so we're connected with everyone literally on the internet. Like
well, Q was pre-pandemic. Q was
I know it was pre-pandemic, but it really didn't like gain steam until we had this like big event happen, an event that was so big that now everybody in the world pretty much pictures their own timeline, their own reality as like pre and post pandemic.
Yeah,
know what
the
I mean?
public space is the internet now. The internet's the public space.
Yeah. Like we had to retreat to the internet in order to survive. And then as people did that, as more and more people did that, as more and more people who were not, and I don't know what to differentiate, like I don't know like what sets certain people off. I mean, like I agree that like yeah, they need structure or whatever. Like these people crave structure, right? So they need something to explain. They choose to like use a crazy explanation to explain really what's happening in their life, which is that like this deadly disease is killing a lot of
Well,
people.
so here's the problem.
It's a pandemic.
I'm going right back to 2001's Metal
Getting
Gear Solid
Microsoft
2.
injected in your arm.
I'm going right back to 2001's Metal Gear Solid 2. Hideo Kojima predicted this shit in 2001. Here's a direct quote. Everyone withdraws into their own small gated community, afraid of a larger forum, and they stay in their little ponds, leaking whatever truth suits them into the growing cesspool of society at large. So like,
You're saying the internet is the
even though
larger
we're connected,
forum now?
people still make their little QAnon gated Facebook group or whatever.
Yeah, but this is 2001, and this is the most interesting part about the Patriots in 2001. 2001 is George Bush. You're either with us or you're against us. And also 2001 is when, like, I'm looking at the neologism page on this, is when Google bombing was coined. And that's in which you start, like, manipulating the Google search engine so that people... you can get like a higher search rank and your things would appear first.
Yeah. Like those images on Reddit where it's like, let's upvote this so that it's the most searched for thing on Reddit or like Google or whatever, like an image of Trump kissing Putin or whatever.
Yeah. So that when you look it up on Google Images, it's the first thing that shows. But like, it's like an interesting like creating context information control thing. But like when it comes to like how that it was affected by American ideology, like the free speech environment, like 2001 to 2003 was pretty much you're either like shit I can't possibly explain because like that era for my parents it was like, oh, we're not going to be able to get into the United States when Coach Etheridge or like other Mr. Jackson or other people would describe it, it was like if you didn't have like an American flag pin, people think that you're like a fucking terrorist or like you're
because of 2001.
Because of 9/11.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you guys know what happened in 2005, right? Perhaps like the biggest life-changing event on our timeline.
Let me
You
know.
know?
Let me know.
Subprime mortgages started being handed out.
No. Justin Timberlake reached over across Janet Jackson's breast during the Super Bowl.
Oh, and ripped it
off.
off. Yeah.
And her boob got exposed on live TV, and everybody
Holy
saw
crap.
it.
That was a big deal, and I feel like today that
was
would
a huge
absolutely
deal.
not be a big deal. Like
No, it wouldn't even
people would be like, haha, it's another meme.
they'd be like, oh, free titty, like that's all they wouldn't even care, you know.
Or Justin Timberlake would be like people would hyper analyze if he did that on purpose or like, you know, like try to get into like the ethics of it, right?
It's interesting I bring that up because I just watched like a YouTube video of this guy who analyzed it years after the fact, and one of the interesting things that he found was that literally there was like no articles blaming Justin Timberlake for the incident.
Yeah.
It was like all the blame went on Janet Jackson. I was like, oh, okay, well, society was like a lot more sexist.
I didn't even know that Justin Timberlake was involved at all. I didn't know he was even on stage because that's just how disconnected I was. So
yeah, this makes me remember something.
I just remember seeing like Janet Jackson's titty. That was awesome, you know. But
I don't think I was paying attention to that, but it does make me think like a lot about like there's like this guy that talked about how history is interpreted. I don't remember his name, but he's like, it's not that like when we think of the past, like it's the same past. We're always interpreting it from different perspectives as we move forward in the future. And not only are we able to interpret the past by like how we see from it from here, it's about how we saw the way that we saw it the last time we saw it. And so like when we're thinking about like what we thought about like Janet Jackson's titty, like right after that was like short-term history. Now when we interpret it now, after like the lens of like Me Too and all that,
with
like,
a lot more context.
yeah, all the context is like, it's interesting. Like, have you gone back and watched 90s comedies?
They're like
Seinfeld, yes.
no. Have you watched early 2000s comedies or like mid 2000s comedies?
Well, I would watch like Friends and
Super
be like,
sexist. There's a bunch of racist stuff in it. Like what was I watching? I was watching The Sitter the other day, which has like Jonah Hill babysitting like these 3 kids. He goes and like messes up a coke deal or something when he's trying to get coke for his girlfriend. I just noticed that like or Click by Adam Sandler is a better example of a movie that completely does not like it's not politically correct at all in this day and age, and watching it through my like current lens is so different because it was like I remember seeing it in theaters and being like, it's a stupid Adam Sandler movie, who cares? Like now when I watch it I'm like, oh my god, like how did he get away with being like this sexist? How did he get away with like making these jokes?
The internet.
It's
The
not
internet
that he got
changed
away
the
with
whole-
it. It's that everyone was blind to it at the time. It was just the norm. Like
Not everyone, not the groups that they would make fun of. I feel like the internet has very
Marginalized groups
domesticated.
aren't blind to it,
But
right?
sure, but I feel like the society at large was just like, cool, whatever. Like I don't think women were like felt like they were abnormally objectified in Adam Sandler's Click.
No, I don't. I mean, maybe. Well, no, but maybe that's the reason my mom fucking hated Adam Sandler movies when I grew up. Now that I'm thinking about it,
All right, well
and
maybe.
she would not want to watch that, because she knew that it objectified her. But when I was watching it, I was like, "What's wrong? It's just a stupid like Adam Sandler comedy. Who cares?"
Monkey.
You know what I mean? But like he went after like gay people super hard in that film. He goes after women not quite as hard as gay people. Like gay people especially, like the like you're gay, that's not cool. Like joke.
Well, our high school and middle school was super homophobic times. Like,
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
it totally was. Like
Which is wild because so many people who were like very like, you're gay, haha, it's the best insult in the world.
Yeah.
They're now gay.
Yeah.
They were insulting me with their own like
insecurities,
with their,
maybe.
I guess.
they police our masculinity, right? Because they would do the whole performance to us. It was just like we didn't really care because we were comfortable with it. But I guess like other people are just like, oh, you like arts and crafts? That makes you gay. I'm going to do violence on you
I
now.
think definitely the best thing that ever happened though is I feel like society now gives zero fucks about being interested in like the most awkward things.
Yeah.
Like you can be into like whatever, and it's just like cool. At least you're not into some like weird degeneracy. You're just like a nerd for making beads or something. Like cool.
Yeah.
I think that's good.
Like like the culture. I mean, maybe it was like Me Too kind of changed a lot of that thinking, though. Probably.
Well, just like or Black Lives Matter. Like for example, it was in like 2014ish when we were just starting college that like the phrase "hands up, don't shoot," "I can't breathe," those things would get started, right?
Really?
Like,
Was that 2014? Like, does?
Yeah.
Oh, damn.
I'm looking it up on the neologisms thing.
I did not hear the "I can't breathe" thing until last year. So
That's how George Floyd.
Yeah. Well, yeah. The thing is that BLM has been going for a long time. Before like when it came to like the protests in 2016, the protests in Charlottesville, it was a lot of like BLM activists that were kind of like clashing with like the white supremacists there. Or like that guy who like killed somebody by like running them over with like the car.
That was Charlottesville.
Yeah,
car. Here in Wisconsin, this last summer was real crazy because we had the Kenosha shooting with that young 16-year-old Kyle, whatever kid. That was like
Rittenhouse.
That's like an hour from where I'm at.
Yeah, so the whole like BLM, like Antifa type thing, like the reaction to that was a lot of like this like pro-police But I also think that it caused like a whole lot of like the white supremacist idea of like that our country is being taken over. We got to take it back because Obama's president. Like all of these like black people are suddenly like um, uh, trying to like influence like the police forces. I really feel like it really poked a like a white supremacist bear in 2014, and that's why we saw all that crazy shit coming out 2016, and it's like people act like BLM became like a big thing in like 2019, but that's just when there was just very big police responses to it, and like a lot of cameras on the scene, and I think maybe like our media was a bit more literate in covering it.
Well, I think like 2020.
I mean, I remember
For,
Black Lives Matter being around in 2016, but they
I
weren't
did
nearly.
too.
It was not nearly as like. I didn't feel like there
Like
was any unifying event that like.
Well, my college
COVID,
campus.
COVID brought everything to the forefront.
Oh yeah, because everyone was trying to just be like, "Cool, I'm stuck inside. Let's find out what's going on," and then people got pissed. And I
Yeah,
went.
because
Did you guys go to any rallies?
I was honestly nervous about going to like a big crowd.
Me too.
I mean,
So I wore a mask and I tried to stay away from people, but like, it was
Yeah.
pretty cool.
but there was a lot of protesting. We live a couple blocks from like the Capitol itself, so
I
like
went to one, but it was very uneventful because it's
there was a shitload of protesting here, and we have a street called State Street, just like goes right down from the Capitol and leads to Bascom Hill, which is like our main like UW like hill campus thing that people walk up to. So State Street is like this artsy street filled with all these businesses and stuff. It's like the most college like capital kind of city street you could imagine. For the last year, it's all been boarded up since like
Yeah.
this summer. Because
I'm not actually sure how downtown Denver is because I haven't actually been to like the Capitol building in a while. But when I went for the protest, everything near there had just been either boarded up or like defaced, and obviously that's just like a small subset of people who were there. But like
yeah.
yeah.
No, I'm not like saying that's
most of the people there were like just like, hey, we're here and we're gonna like they have like a microphone system that
no.
was set up.
I think like the BLM movement is
Yeah, I'm a supporter.
yeah. I think like it's amazing that it's gained so much traction
It like really popped
in the
off.
context of like what's happening.
Yeah,
you
even
know?
people even
like-
went to the protests, like even though everyone was afraid of getting sick. 'Cause I
which
think-
shows how important it is
Yeah,
in the overall context of like what's going on. You know.
Yeah, like when it really
cultural
popped off, like in May 29th, like ish, like 2020, like that was like when the Minneapolis police precinct was like set on fire. I mean, this is like when the YouTube video came out for like Bloomberg Quick Take. So I'm thinking that it's like around that time, 2020, like in May. When that police precinct was set on fire, and when all those like videos came out of like the police like having like shot rubber bullets into like the faces of like
oh,
women
yeah.
and
That stuff made everyone mad. Like
like going into neighborhoods and just like pepper balling people who are just on their porches.
Yeah,
like-
tell them to get back inside. It's like, fuck off.
this
You know.
is my house.
Like,
Yeah,
yeah, I was like thinking watching that shit like, fuck off. I don't even know what like,
And, like,
I would say to somebody. In
I
that
think
situation.
that police response, even if you like weren't paying attention to the like George Floyd stuff or like the Breonna Taylor stuff or Breonna Taylor, sorry.
Mhm.
But I feel like that kind of the fact that that stuff was happening got like a whole different subset of people who weren't connected to it previously, and now they were also mad, and they're like, "Why is this happening?" And now they're like aware of the problem.
Yeah, but that's when like BLM turned into like this big like corporate brand thing too.
BLM,
like there was
I
like,
think,
this
has
whole...
always been a corporate brand thing.
No, not at all.
Oh, no,
like,
no. You're talking about
like when it came to the BLM activists that like protested Hillary
okay,
Clinton.
sorry. I'm thinking of a different thing. You're talking about like corporations being like Black Lives Matter. Yes.
Yeah.
Put it
Yeah.
on our McDouble. Like
let's take this and make money off of
Yeah.
it. I hate that kind of mentality, but that's the U.S.
like
so.
it's the kind of mentality like McDonald's. Obviously I don't know if McDonald's does this, but like some fast food corporation will just like give you a rainbow box and be like, we support gay people.
Yeah. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba, we're loving you. Like,
Yeah, like I don't
And
want
that
to. I don't
and
want
the
to
fact
look.
that
I'm
you
sure McDonald's is fine,
your rainbow Big Mac, and
Mm.
also the Big Mac's 1,200 calories. So
but
Yeah.
I mean, it's just It's like the minimum you can do, basically.
I feel like it's their way of
it's a cash.
subverting it.
It's a
almost.
cash in. I mean, sure. I mean, I guess it's not bad inherently, but it's like the reasoning behind it is not to support. It's because if you support it, it's marketing. Like it's just
I
free
think it's also
marketing.
damage control.
yeah.
It makes it it kind of makes it seem as if society isn't really all set against you, so you don't have to fight that hard, you know. Or it makes it seem like, oh, actually corporations are in support of what you're doing. That's a little sus, like, you know. It's a way of just like corporate subversion of it almost,
Yeah.
where you turn it into like
And
merchandise. You
I-
dilute the meaning.
I'm not 100% sure that I think it's necessarily bad that corporations do this, but it's definitely not. It's coming from a marketing intention. Like that's why they're making these statements. If they thought that they could make more money doing the other thing, they would probably do that. Like,
Speaking of marketing and ads, not to tangent too much, but
Chris, we're on a tangent podcast. It's time.
why is it that again, this is going to YouTube because I watch way too much YouTube. I don't know if you guys watch Tom Scott on YouTube. He's like a British
I'm
YouTuber.
subscribed to Tom Scott.
One of his latest videos was why YouTubers are forced to like make tons of concessions in their sponsorships opposed to like regular movies. Like you watch a Marvel movie, like recently me and Soph just went through like all the Marvel movies in timeline order because quarantine, and we're watching them all, and like it's amazing how many advertisements you'll see in like one typical Marvel movie with like
just like products.
Yeah, Acura. I'm using a fucking Zune. Like I don't know, just shit like that, right? But like on a YouTube video, they have to like announce that that the video is sponsored like before. Like why are like small content creators held on a completely different like regard as far as like advertisements and advertising and marketing within their videos opposed to like an actual corporate entity? That doesn't even it's like
know.
that
I think there's also a distinction to be made though. Like usually when YouTubers are doing sponsorship, they'll do an actual like commercial and be like, "You should buy this product." But in the Marvel movies, they're just kind of trying to subliminally market to you. Like they're not like, "You should buy this product," but they're just like, "This is the phone that Captain America uses."
It seems worse in a way though.
I guess
I don't
so.
like. Why do I have to watch Iron Man roll up in an Acura? Like,
I mean,
And they pose it at that like angle.
yeah,
the
they
angle.
angle it just so that the symbol is facing you, and then they like do a quick pan over the dashboard to show you all the cool Acura technology. It's a fucking Acura, okay? I get it. Like he's driving.
Make him show up on a goddamn electric bike. Have Iron Man show up on a bus, damn it.
I think the other real problem is like the movie itself. Like the advertising companies like really want to be in this movie, and the movie doesn't need the advertising companies particularly.
No.
Like they want them.
It would break immersion for them to just.
It would break
like,
immersion for them to announce it for sure.
Tony Stark's not going to say that.
And like
but-
regardless of whether Acura is in on the movie or not, the movie's still going to make millions and millions of dollars. So, but
Right.
like whereas a small content creator, I know that like a lot of people get demonetized on YouTube, as we've heard from demonetization gate.
YouTubers, because I watch a lot of music channels,
Yeah.
and they're often like the butt of demonetization because of like just them trying to teach people about.
I think we've already, with this first podcast, have ruined any chances of us potentially getting monetized in the future if we ever get an audience.
Monetized.
But
Yeah,
who
you can't
cares?
talk about like the U.S. government supporting the Contras, like far right wing terrorists in Nicaragua, and
Yeah.
get monetized on YouTube.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba, I'm loving it.
Yeah, ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Sponsor us.
Yeah,
Concentrated animal feeding operations.
I didn't mean what I said about the Big Mac earlier. It is delicious.
I don't
and
think we're going to have to worry about sponsorships at all, though, because we have exactly 0 viewers right now. And we, but I mean, it's going to be on YouTube forever, so whatever.
And I want to if you guys will have me, I'll come back to this
Chris,
podcast anytime.
I'm in.
I'm gonna shout out to the future
We need
un-American activities panel that I'm gonna have in the hearing in. Like,
We need to have a revisit with probably most people who've been on our podcast before, just to put them in the new video format, plus revisit them. Because I feel like pretty much everyone we've had an episode with has been great. And I'd like to hear from them again.
This is my favorite style of podcasts, like you were saying earlier, just like the talk format
Yeah.
where you can kind of just go off on any like conversation.
It's
or, like,
also
whatever.
the most fun because you get to know everyone we've interviewed has acted slightly different than when we talk to them normally. Because the fact that we're podcasting, people will go on specific tangents that they would not have gone on.
It directs you in a way that you want to be heard, like the message you want to give out or
Yeah.
whatever, because you know that you're going to be talking to people. If we were all just like hanging out like back home or something, it would be like a completely different scenario, obviously.
Yeah.
Like,
but I have a question. I want to kind of tie in how this conversation like evolved to talk about like technology and like social media and like Gen Zers and things like that, back to like woodworking and business and things like that. Like when you're like looking for like different kinds of jobs or like a thing or things like that, like how has like the social media internet like landscape COVID type situation, like I I know that you're more literate about like the situation with the internet, like how is that?
I found that I was able to adapt really well, and I made a decision to leave like my more stable job and pursue my LLC full time because one, I don't want to badmouth the company I was at or anything, but I just didn't agree with how they were handling the COVID situation. But I also like in my heart knew that like I wanted to be my own schedule master, I guess, like, and I think I've adapted to it pretty well. Like we're really adept at communicating with people via the internet, which I think maybe not a lot of like small business contractors are, especially the smaller side ones. So we can like nab a lot of that business too, like from a marketing standpoint. Like we put our own website together, we put our own like server and email servers together. We did all that. We didn't have to like hire outside help because we were both computer literate. So it's like I know how to put an email server together and buy a domain and like make a WordPress site that looks pretty professional. Um, I think like in my industry in particular, because the average age of somebody that's doing what I'm doing is like 50 and up, uh, I was able to like really capitalize on the fact that like I knew how to use a computer. And like I spend a lot of my days we're like as if like kind of akin to a freelancer, so work is up and down. So it's like we have a really big job that's starting in uh April, at the beginning of April. It's probably going to be a 3 or 4 week job. So like that's going to be most of the month of April. March I'm kind of using to just like take in and get in contact with all my leads, you know, communicate with all the people that I had previously like kind of set up connections with, quoting out a lot of different jobs and kind of planning more into the future. So I don't know. I just like for me anyways, the computer literacy side of things and the technology literacy kind of just helped me uh jump right into this. And we spent a lot of time setting it up while we were both still working full time for like an established company.
Yeah.
So I think that also helped. Like we gained a lot of like traction as far as like setup and administrative duties were concerned in that front. But I do think like um if you got a computer and a desk to sit at and something that you're decent at doing, you can probably turn some sort of profit on it, you know? I think like that's an amazing thing about like our current age. Like that like the internet is more established to the point where it's like especially 2020 was just like it's crucial to everything we do now. And if you don't know how to contend with that or keep up with that, you're gonna get like left behind, you know. So it's like the fact that I already know how to use a computer and I can spend a day at the computer planning a job out, and then the next couple of days like actually doing the job, you know, that's
Mhm.
huge. I think like uh that's in no small part thanks to like being raised with computers, you know. I couldn't imagine. I was talking to my business partner once about like, imagine if we had started this business in the 90s, you know, and we got to like get a phone book out and call people up from the phone instead of, hey, I'm going to write up this marketing email that's like, we're a local contractor, and send it to like 1,000 people in my area via like the Nextdoor app or
Well,
Craigslist.
you had AOL, right? You had the
So here's a
Yeah, like,
question:
you
yeah.
used that
Have you
forums.
have you dabbled into looking into like paying for like Facebook ads or like Google ads or like stuff?
You do. You
You
do
do?
pay for stuff. Yeah.
Interesting. How do those like wind up? Like, what do those wind up costing you?
It depends on like the keywords you buy for Google. If you buy like certain keywords, there's other companies that have bought a lot of keywords that spent a lot more money than we do on it. But Facebook in particular has really helped because I'm able to like share things with people, and even if like one of you guys is scrolling through Facebook one day and you just see like, oh, Chris shared a post from his business or whatever, like you still see that and it reaches people,
Yeah.
and that reaches a bunch of people, which then directs the traffic like to our website. um so it's like that's kind of been organically growing. Like we spend more money on it, but it's not like we're dumping a ton of money into it, but it's enough that it's like I can start seeing it, especially like today. I had a couple of hits and I just kind of watched things, and it was like, man, like a year ago, we were not at the place we're at right now. You know, like a year
Yeah.
ago, nobody even knew who we were. But now it's like we shared a couple posts on Facebook, and I get like a couple emails a day from different companies, either wanting to like make a connection with us or do business with us. We get hits on our website from like random people that need jobs done, and
Yeah, because
um,
now you have like an additional inflow because people will just randomly stumble upon you and be like, "Oh, I want some tile. Sounds
yeah,
good," or some
yeah, and
cabinets.
it's like you can tailor it to the area you live in. So it's like I'm obviously not gonna go tiling anybody's house in Oak Ridge,
Yeah,
you know. But um yeah, I do think like that's been the fact that I can spend $10 on a Facebook ad and reach 2 or 3 thousand people. That's like amazing for, you know, the fact that like 20 years ago you couldn't do something like that. Like you'd have to like buy a billboard
yeah.
to reach like a fraction of that many people.
The guy,
So
the Knoxville guy who did Swagfest,
yeah,
he's behind you all the way.
yeah. So it's like
Also, yeah.
that's that's the sick thing about 2021, man, and like the age we live in, and the uh technology we're surrounded by. Like the internet can just connect you. Just being able to connect with all my friends on Facebook and show them an ad is like the fact that I have like 2,500 friends on Facebook. I don't even know most of them anymore. I just like have accumulated tons of friend requests and sent out tons over the years, right? Of like all these different places I've lived in. And like it really does reach those people, and then those same people are directing other people to your website. Like, oh, I heard about like my buddy Chris has this thing. Why don't you talk to him? Blah blah blah. Like, and it's, you know, it's amazing from that perspective. I would also say though that a lot of our business has come like just from word of mouth still. And like that's still super important in this day and age.
Oh
And
yeah,
then like establishing trust with somebody. You do like one job for you. It always feels like the first job you do for a client, they're always like um not super sure of you, you know, until it's like, oh yeah, like I know what I'm doing. I know how to handle all this stuff. And then you build that repertoire up with them,
I know
and
that
it just grows from there.
I know that my parents hired a contractor And then after we hired him one time, we were like, all right, you want to come back and do this, and this?
Yeah, like
And
he's your guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, like so this job we have coming up, this big job next month. I'm super excited about it because the person we're doing it for is actually a realtor, and I think it could be like.
Oh yeah, because then you could maybe get they like
She
you.
says that she has people contacting her weekly looking for contractors, and she's been giving our card out.
Well, that's
So
great.
it's like, yeah, so it's like that. That's another big bump, you know, and that's like from word of mouth. That's not from the internet.
Yeah.
So, a lot of the stuff we get on the internet is for drafting gigs. A lot of people like need drafting, like of their cabinets for their kitchens done, or like some special architectural woodworking. Like, I don't know how to draw this. I'm like, I got you. And then like we'll provide plans, and I charge like a shitload of money for that because they don't know how to do it. So
Yeah. Well, Chris, I think you've been
Yeah.
a wonderful guest, and I would love to have you back on at some point. Also, before
Yeah,
we go,
thanks for having
because we're around the 2.5 hour mark, so we're gonna have to put hashtags on these episodes on YouTube. What is the hashtags of? How many hashtags should we use? 5. What hashtags are we selecting for this
Man,
episode?
there's so many things we covered.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
that here.
I think this could be an interesting segment that we do at the end of every episode. Might be a good move. Maybe. We'll find
We
out.
gotta describe what's going on. How do we tell people? Chris talks about woodworking.
Hashtag
Zoomers.
small business.
Woodworking, the Big Mac at McDonald's. Sorry, I'm just stuck on it now.
Interestingly, if we put hashtag Big Mac, would we get marketing influx? Would people?
I don't know. I often see YouTube people like rip off like the logos on things like for the. I wonder why. You know, maybe there's a good reason.
I hope I didn't say anything that offends anybody on YouTube and they watch till the end of
Well,
the video.
I hope you did, because I hope we go viral, and then you'll have to come back on to defend yourself. So.
Yeah,
No,
yeah. You have to do your apology video.
Did I say anything offensive? I don't know.
Yeah, just
No, my job is to start political fights in the comments section. That's that's what I'm gonna do.
Also, Chris, if anyone's listening, it's time for you to plug your business.
Oh yeah, heck yeah. Visit sandhillengineering.net.
Hashtag Sandhill Engineering.
Hashtag Sandhill Engineering if you need contracting done in southern Wisconsin, probably mid-southern Wisconsin, more than likely. I don't want to drive all the way to Milwaukee for you. Hit me up. We build stuff. I got a table saw. I'm pretty good with it, I've been told. So let me know if you need something built. Also, just shout out to Zeitgeist podcast for having me on and letting me talk about crap that nobody really. I don't think my opinion's that important in the grand scheme of things, but I've got an outlet to talk about my things that I'm thinking about currently, and I'm appreciative of that.
Yeah.
It's like maybe somebody's gonna listen.
Hope
And
so.
drafts and modeling, right, on the internet. That you can do from a distance, right?
Oh yeah, I can do remote drafting. We do a lot of nationally recognized remote drafting. So
So you can do where even if you're in Tennessee.
If you're in Tennessee, if you're in Denver, if you're in California, if you're in Hawaii, we worked with a guy in Hawaii once. That was really cool. We work with people in Arkansas, random. I've worked with people in Baltimore. I've worked with people all over the United States as far as drafting is concerned. If you need something drafted, let me know.
All right. I only have 3 hashtags aside from Enter the Zeitgeist, which we're going to try and make a hashtag. But small business, Sandhill Engineering, Zoomers.
We talked a lot about internet culture.
Internet culture, yeah.
All right, internet culture. I don't think there's any hard limit, but I think that's a good start.
Cubans.
Hopefully we can get recommended. The reason I'm interested in doing this on YouTube instead of Twitch is because Twitch, it's really hard to find random small streamers, but YouTube will recommend live streams like videos. which is why I'm interested.
Are we streaming it on YouTube like right now?
Yeah, we are currently live on YouTube.
What is what's it called?
It's
I want to look
under
at my pretty face.
It's under my channel. I'll send you the link because we're about to sign off.
Yeah, shoot me the link so I can watch.
Smash that like button.
Smash that like button. Hit that bell because you need to get notified.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't announce these things beforehand. You got to be ready.
Pablo, if we want to set up a schedule, we should at least the days that we're streaming, you can like set up a notification, so people will see it on their subscriber list that it's gonna go live.
Yeah, yeah.
We should do that if we know we're gonna be streaming that day.
Hell yeah. Okay.
Yeah, if you guys ever want me back on to like talk about
Chris, if you ever have anything you specifically want to talk about, I feel like you can just ask and we'll probably bring you back on. We don't really have a set schedule, so I feel like if we have something to talk about, we should just make an episode. But we should try and be more frequent with these and not go for 3 months without doing an episode.
Yeah. But no, definitely the hardest step is the first step. I feel like we're gonna get back on a roll.
Well, also this format's way easier to do because there's no post-processing. And literally, I think I will rip the audio from this video and upload it to Spotify.
And I kind of like it more because I get to see Chris's beautiful face.
I also like it more because I feel like it's easier to focus on the conversation when I'm watching you guys speak instead of me like.
It's almost like we're all in a room together.
Yeah,
I can share my little. I still appreciate this. I still love it so much.
I knew you would. That's why I recommended it.
I've been playing with the ribbon so much. Like it's definitely an ADHD thing.
I just have tools like scattered on my desk, and like this thing, and
hell yeah,
some tape.
If you don't have something random on your desk, like what are you doing?
Look, man, you don't even know. I got this fucking grill right here.
Yeah,
I got the fucking Cambridge Dictionary of Philosophy now.
I've got some tools.
I have a stud finder. I have some tortillas. What else do I got?
I got this thing.
Got a wrench.
Is that like an Elmaphone?
Yeah.
I got a book on dealing.
The battery is dead right now.
I thought about buying one of those, even though I know I probably shouldn't.
Recovery emotionally mature.
Yeah.
Anyways,
recovering from yeah. What a joke.
Thank everybody for listening. Thanks for coming on, Chris.
Thanks for having me. I'll come back anytime you guys want, honestly. This was super fun. Again, if I offended you by saying anything, I'm sorry. I really don't think we talked about any super
No, I don't really think we did. And honestly, if anyone's the most offensive on this show, it's probably me. So
I think you're the least offensive.
I think I would very much agitate some
but
conservative
Pablo, you're on the right side.
Pablo would definitely agitate conservative.
Yes, but you're on the right.
Well, I mean, yeah.
But like I'm the establishment over here, Pablo.
Yeah.
Anyways,
so I get his institutional validation.
On that, we're not live anymore.